Hey listener, how are you all? Today we will see what if Naruto is turned into a girl by Artemis. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. It's been 13 years since she has been in the Element Nation, where the gods were given permission from the Shinto gods ruler in the Element Nations to relax and enjoy what it offers to the gods. They couldn't believe how into nature this nation is, where there is no pollution, how untouched the forests and the wildlife were. But what is really surprising them is that how strong the mortal in this world is. They powers that could even rival them in strength and power. She was looking at the village Konohagakure no Sato, the village hidden in the leaves, since her husband Minato Namikaze died protecting the village from the nine-tailed fox, also known as the Kyuubi, where he sealed it into their newborn son, Naruto. Zeus had given her permission to break her vows to marry and have a child, but under the condition that when she has a child, she must return to Olympus immediately. She sees most men are pigs and arrogant in her eyes. She sees them only caring about their pride, power, wealth and themselves in general. But yet she has fallen with Minato Namikaze, who was the opposite of what she viewed men. He was kind, careful, respected and thought of others than himself. The hunters didn't approve of him, but eventually they started to accept him and saw him as a father figure to them, for the Olympians didn't approve of him at first. But when they saw his skills and powers, but also his leadership skills, they started to accept him and even befriend him. The years she spends with him was wonderful and magnificent and wouldn't trade it anything in the world. When Minato died by sealing the Kyuubi in their son, but also at the cost of giving his soul to the Shinigami, god of death and suicide desires, and ruler of Yomi, so she couldn't see or visit him in the afterlife. She wanted to take Naruto with her but couldn't due to ancient laws. But she was given 1 hour with her son and asked the third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, Jiraiya, Tsunade Senju, and Kakashi Hatake look after her son and promised to keep him safe and looked after. After that, she kissed him on the head and muttered how she loved him and will see him one day, and then she returned to Olympus. Now the woman was known as Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, wildness, virginity, childbirth and the moon. Where she is currently in her teen form, where she has shoulder-length auburn hair and silver eyes and was described as incredibly beautiful. She is currently walking with 3 of her hunters, walking in Konoha, heading toward Hokage Mansion to speak to the current Hokage about Naruto. It's been a while since we were here, right, Artemis, said a hooded woman next to Artemis. Indeed my friend, indeed, responded Artemis. It's different from the last time we were here milady, said a black-haired hunter. Wonder what happened, said Artemis as she looked around, where the village looks like a wreck and like it's been invaded or something. Most likely some fight or something milady, but that doesn't matter, let's go see your son. I just hope he isn't like other boys, said a big hooded hunter. I hope he isn't Phoebe, otherwise I teach that son of mine a lesson, said Artemis, clenching her hand up with fire in her eyes. Okay, calm down Artemis, after all he is Minato's and your son, said the hooded woman. I know, just wish I was there for him, muttered Artemis sadly, looking down. Don't worry about it, this is your chance to see him, said the hooded woman, trying to reassure her friend. Milady, we're here, said the black-haired hunter, as they look up and indeed had arrived at the Hokage mansion. As they were about to enter the mansion, Artemis looked up at the Hokage monument and more especially at Minato's face on the monument. She sighed sadly and entered the mansion with her hunters. As they went into the mansion and headed to the Hokage office and were given permission to enter the Hokage office, and when they saw who the Hokage was, they were shocked. They were expecting Hiruzen Sarutobi to resume his role as Hokage, but the man in front of them was different. He was a frail old man with black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged and wore a white shirt, with a black robe over the top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. This man was Danzo Shimura. Danzo looked up from his paper to look who entered his office, and his widened, seeing who was at his office. He recognized her as Artemis, the Greek goddess of the hunt and moon. What happened to the village, Danzo, and what happened to Izorin? Asked Artemis. We were invaded by Orochimaru, who led Otogakure, specially known as the village hidden in sound, and was allied with Suna, or as the village hidden in the sand. Hiruzen went and battled Orochimaru, but he used the Edo Tensei to revive the Lord First and Second and gave him quite the battle that was extraordinary. But Hiruzen used the Reaper Death Seal to seal both Lord First and Second, but unable to seal Orochimaru, but managed to seal his home. He then died due to the first condition, and as such, I was appointed as the Godem Hokage, my lady, explained Danzo. I see, said Artemis as she and her hunters looked down and mourned for the fallen Hokage. But then she looked up and looked Danzo in the eye and said, "Where is my son, Danzo? I want to see him." Then Danzo's eyes widened but then looked serious at her and then said, "I'm afraid I cannot do that, my lady." Her eyes narrowed and said dangerously, "And why not?" "Because he is needed here, he is a Jinchuriki, a weapon and asset to our village," said Danzo calmly. "He is my son and I am his mother and I have every right to see him, so I won't ask again." "Danzo, where is my son?" Artemis growled and is losing her patience, and her hunters were too, as they had their bows on hand and ready to use it. Danzo looked around for any escape route or a way to find the upper hand on the moon goddess and her hunters, but in the current situation and position he is in, he knows that the chance of success for either of the two scenarios are slim, and then sighed and said, "Very well, I'll send someone in to get him, but he isn't what you will be expecting." And he ordered his secretary to get Kitsune, Fox, for him. "And what makes you say that, Danzo?" asked Artemis calmly but also in a dangerous voice. "Because I trained him to be my weapon and tool with no emotion. In a few more years he'll be the perfect weapon for this village, but I see now that plan is gone," replied Danzo. And the atmosphere got intense. Killer intent was released from the hunters, but no more intense than Artemis, as her eyes darkened and gave Danzo a death glare so intense that would make Chaos wet himself, not wanting to face the wrath of the almighty moon goddess. She then said, "Danzo, you promised me you would look after him. You swore to me that you and the others would look after him. But I did, my lady. I raised him and cared for him in the last 7 years. I taught him to fight, survive, and to kill, but you didn't say anything about giving him a childhood or a happy life. How did Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kakashi allow this? They promised they would look after him." "That is true, but they didn't know. They all thought that Naruto had died," replied Danzo. He looked Artemis in the eyes and then continued, "When he was 6, the village came and attacked him and blow up his apartment with him still inside, but fortunately when root agents came in time and got him out in time while he was unconscious. That convinced them of Naruto's death and believed that they failed you. And with them out of the way, I trained him to be the emotionless weapon I see him today." Artemis' anger has just risen and was about to express her anger when suddenly the door opened, revealing an Anbu agent. He looked around, about 12 to 13 years old, tan skin and spiky sun-kissed blonde with auburn streaks all over his hair similar to her hair. And he was wearing the standard Anbu gear with katana strapped on his back, also wearing a fox mask with patterns on it. He walked past the hunters and kneels in front of Danzo and said, "You called for me, Danzo-sama?" "Yes, Kitsune, the woman behind you is your mother and she is here to take you with. I ask you to remove your mask and look at her," said Danzo as Kitsune turned. Looking at the women, he took off his mask to reveal a handsome young man with 3 whiskers on each side of his cheek. He is wearing a Konoha headband on his forehead and revealing 2 sapphire blue eyes. As the hunters stared, they couldn't help but stare in shock at the boy in front of them. He looked exactly like Minato, but his hair was in a different style, not to mention the auburn streaks. The black-haired hunter couldn't help but blush at him and thinking how handsome he is but shake it off. But no one was more shocked than Artemis, since she is looking at her son, her baby boy. She couldn't help but have her eyes, tears and pouring down her cheeks. Her baby boy had grown up. Before anyone could say anything, Danzo made a hand sign and placed his hand on the back on Naruto's head. His eyes widened and pass out. Artemis caught him before he hit the ground. This alerted the hunters, and seeing their anger had risen. "Danzo, what did you do to my son?" roared Artemis while holding Naruto. "I simply removed the cursed mark one placed in any root's secret from him. Now take him if you want, but be warned. The minute you leave with him, I am labeling him as a missing nin. He'll be hunted down and bring back to this village as its Jinchuriki of Konoha. We will find a way to enter the Greek world," said Danzo. Before Artemis could say anything, the hooded hunters walked up and said, "And when that time comes, he will be ready and prepared, and so will we." Danzo raised his eyebrows and asked, "And who the hell are you?" The hunter simply put her hood down, making Danzo widen his eyes. The women in front of him had slender, but feminine build, fair skin, violet eyes and fiery red hair. This was Konoha former Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Kushina Uzumaki. You're supposed to be dead. How the hell are you still alive?" Danzo muttered in shock. "I don't have to tell anything, Danzo. You turned my godson into one of your weapons and that has put you on our shit list and others soon enough. I want nothing more than to kill you, and most likely the same with Artemis, but I think that pressure belongs to someone else. Now Danzo, we will be taking our leave, said Kushina as she turned around to Artemis, who was still holding Naruto, and nodded to her and began to shine. Danzo knew what was going on, so he unwrapped his bandage to reveal his Sharingan to negate the effect of the bright light, like when the Greek gods used to teleport or transform to their divine form. As the light brightens and engulfed the entire office, the hunters are gone along with Naruto. As Danzo looked at the empty space, he wrapped his bandage back and started writing reports and began listing Naruto a missing nen. At the hunters' camp, the hunters were talking among themselves, but then a light shined in front of them, and when the light disappeared, it revealed their lady with the other 3 hunters. But their lady was holding a boy that looked similar to their father figure and can only presume is her son. "My lady, is this him? Is this your son?" said a blonde 12-year-old hunter as she and others couldn't help but look at him, since this is their mistress' son and how much he resemble one of the only men in this world they respect. "Yes, my fellow hunters, this is my son Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I would like us to welcome him when he wakes up," said Artemis, and her hunters nodded. She looked down and smiled to Naruto, who looked peaceful right now, as she removed his leaf headband and then kissed him on his forehead. "My son, when you wake up, I would like to welcome you to this brand new world." As Naruto groaned while his eyes began to open and he found himself staring at a ceiling that seemed to be in fabric. As he looks around, he finds himself in a place he does not recognize. It looks like he was inside a tent, but what surprises him is that there was a red-headed woman looking at him. He swore he saw her somewhere before but waved it off, but couldn't help but be cautious around this woman. "Who are you and where am I?" as Naruto asked in a bored tone with an emotionless face but preparing to attack if necessary. The woman just smiled at him and said, "Before I answer that, tell me what the last thing you remember was." "Well, I was called into Lord Danzo's office for some unknown reason and then told me the auburn-haired woman was my mother, and then everything went black." "Is she really my mother?" replied Naruto with still an emotionless face. "Yes, Naruto, she is your mother and she will see you soon, but she has to go to a meeting first. Anyway, to answer your question, Naruto, I'm your godmother Databane," as she said cheerfully and raised her right arm on that last sentence. Naruto didn't expected that, and that was surprised for him and couldn't help but mutter, "You're my." Naruto then had this deadpanned look on his face at Kushina pose, but then realized something. This was Kushina fucking Uzumaki, the red-hot Habanner, one of the greatest Kenjutsu master in history, and not to mention the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki before him. "You're Kushina Uzumaki, right?" he asked, and she nodded. "How are you alive? I thought every Buji extraction kills the host." "Okay, for 2 reasons. One is that Uzumakis have incredible strong life force which can both endure and survive most grievous injuries, plus incredible longevity, so I managed to survive the extraction, but that puts me in a near-death state, and which it brings me to the second reason is that your mother found me and gave the blessing of being a hunter of Artemis, in which it heals all injuries and saved my life, and now here I am," answered Kushina. "Hunters of Artemis, I thought they were myths, so does that means the Greek gods are real? I ask her that later," thought Naruto. "One thing I need to ask, how did the Kyuubi escape in the first place?" asked Naruto. "That's a story for another time, Naruto." "Okay, you said that the auburn hair lady was my mum, right?" asked Naruto as Kushina nodded. "So where is she right now?" "After she left you here, she had to go to a meeting that concerns you." "But enough about that, tell me about yourself, Naruto." "On Olympus. When Artemis has brought Naruto to this realm, she is instantly called to Olympics. All the Olympians were there excluding Hades, and Zeus demanded why Artemis had brought her son here. She explained the situation with Naruto, Konoha, and Danzo about him turning Naruto treatment by the villagers, and which led Danzo getting his hands on Naruto and turning to what he is now. As to say, all of them were disgusted on the treatment of Naruto, and no one can blame Artemis for what she did, even Zeus. "Okay, daughter, he can stay, but we might have to get permission for Izanami since he belonged in her realm," said Zeus. "That won't be necessary, Zeus," a powerful feminine voice speaks out. As the Olympians look at the direction of the voice, and what they saw was Izanami, the Shinto primordial goddess of creation and death. She had long black hair in a traditional Japanese style. She has pure blue eyes, and she is wearing a pure white kimono with blue patterns on it with a yellow obi with accessories on her. She is slender and feminine build and is so beautiful that she was considered more beautiful than Aphrodite herself. She was also a very kind and generous goddess and had an overall good personality. But don't let her looks deceive you. She has the power to defeat the Olympians, Titans and even primordial gods together in less than 5 minutes. She was even said that she could rival Chaos in powers and skills, which is why everyone respect and fear her at the same time. You have my permission to have Naruto here. I have seen what the village and Danzo did to him and it disgusted me to no end. Due to ancient laws I couldn't interfere my world and the fact he was a Shinto dissident, but you could since he is a Greek demigod and since you weren't from my realm. You Artemis could interfere with that, so I thank you for taking young Naruto, said Izanami with a gentle smile on her face. I have seen in the future that he make bonds and friends with, he continues the path you lead and one day be the savior of both worlds with another, and don't worry, he isn't your child of Propensi but of another. You seem to be interested in the boy Izanami. Why? Asked Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. He has an ability that interests me. He has the ability to defy his and others' fate. In other words, he can fight the Sisters of Fate and denied them, as Izanami stated, which caused the Olympians to shock but quickly waved it off. Well, thank you Lady Izanami, you are forever in my debt, said Artemis. Don't worry about it Artemis, we are friends, so don't worry too much about it. Now if you excuse me, I have to go back to my realm. Well, goodbye, said Izanami as she left in a bright light. As soon as Izanami left, the meeting continued on. Okay, now that's out of the way. Daughter, I will give you permission to spend 1 month with him to teach about our world and culture, but after that, he's on his own and show him the way to Camp Half-Blood. Okay daughter, as Zeus said to his favorite daughter, and with that she nodded and left back to the hunter's camp. So that was Minato's brat. He seems strong and I don't mind fighting him in the near future, said Ares, the Greek god of war. He's interesting enough. Can't wait for him to come to camp and entertain me, said Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and madness. I can't wait to meet him. I can teach him many things and tell him about his awesome uncle, said Apollo with a strange pose which caused everyone to sweat drop. Yes, but until then dismissed, said Zeus in a dramatic voice, and with that, the Olympians left. Meanwhile, back at the hunter's camp. And then I wake up to see you, that's pretty much my life, as Naruto finished explaining his story to Kushina, and as she was about to say something, a bright light appeared out of the tent. It seems your mother is back. Well, come on, let's go meet her, as Kushina left the tent and Naruto followed. When he got outside, he saw a bunch of girls staring at him, but in front of them was a woman about in her early 20s and has shoulder-length auburn hair and sliver eyes and was described as incredibly beautiful in his opinion. As the women came up to him and suddenly hugged him while he stood there showing no emotion. My boy, my baby boy, I so sorry on what happened to you. I so sorry, as Artemis held Naruto for a while with tears coming down her eyes, as he looked at the other girls who were either smiling or crying at the scene. So your mother, right? As Artemis let go off him and sobbed, but nodded. Who are you? Well Naruto, I am Artemis, the Greek goddess of the hunt, wildness, virginity, childbirth and the moon. Artemis answered Naruto's question. So gods do exist, right? Asked Naruto, and she nodded. Does this make me a half god or something? Well, you're half right, you're actually 75% god and 25% human. Your dad was actually a demigod himself, answered Artemis as she looked at Naruto. She saw him a little bit surprised but hid it well with an emotionless face. So who is dad and grandpa anyway? Your grandpa, I can't tell you now, but you will find out later, but your father is someone you might know well. He's the Yellow Flash Minato Namikaze. Wait, you're saying my dad was the 4th Hokage himself? Yes Naruto, but enough about that. I want to know, what do you think of me Naruto? Are you upset that I wasn't there in your life? Asked Artemis and was nervous about Naruto's answer. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't if I should be happy or mad. I can't really feel anything, and I would understand if you didn't wanted me as your son or even love me, said Naruto in an emotionless tone. Artemis soon held him again and started kissing him on his head, showing that she indeed loves him. Naruto, I would never hate you. If I got the chance I would raised you as my own son and be there for you. Naruto, no matter what the situation is, I will always love you because you are my pride and joy, said Artemis as she held Naruto tighter, and Naruto couldn't help but hug her back, even though he couldn't feel the love back, but he had the urge to do it. They stood there for a few minutes, and unknown to the both of them, Kushina took a photo of this sweet moment between the mother and son, but also couldn't help but smile at this sweet scene. 1 month later. During the 1 month he spent with the hunters and his mother, he learned a lot of things in this world like English, technology and about Greek mythology, and it was different from in this world in many different ways, like advanced technology, no alliances, and certainly not everyone around is a trained killer. While he was there, Artemis and Kushina discovered that his nature chakra was wind, water and lighting, and also has a Kekkei Genkei, which was storm, and didn't surprise them because of who his grandpa was. He was also good with kenjutsu techniques and hand-to-hand combat. While he was there, he learned about archery from his mother and the hunters at the camp, but from his mother she also taught him the Rasengan when she demonstrated to him. She told him that his father taught her how to use it and it was the highest form of shape manipulation. She informed him that it was an incomplete jutsu because his father was about to add an element to it, but he died before he could do it. When she showed him how it was done, she was surprised that Naruto has mastered it in a week's time, and it took Minato 3 years to develop it and her about a month to master it. He was also given the wolf summoning contract from his mom, but told him to sign the contract when the time is right. His relationship with the hunters were decent at first, not because he was male but because of his emotionless personality, but eventually has a positive relationship with him because even though he doesn't feel the emotion, but he came to care and protect them and doesn't why but feels like he needed to it. But one hunter he was close to was Zoe Nightshade, who had long, silky black hair, coppery-like skin, a silver circlet around her head, a slightly upturned nose, and black eyes. She was the lieutenant of the hunt. During the 1 month they bonded during the month like a sibling relationship, but it feels like more than that. He wonders sometime why Zoe blushes every time she is with him. And now it's time for him to leave the hunters and his journey to Camp Half-Blood. He was got some supplies with on his way to Camp Half-Blood. He got food and water that could last a week, some spare. As he stood there wearing some new clothing provided by his mother, he was currently wearing a black hoodie with dark blue jeans on and was wearing fighting gloves on with blue sneakers on. As he stood at the entrance of the hunters' camp, he sees his mother, his godmother and the hunters there saying goodbye to him and wished him luck on his journey ahead. But his mother is currently babying him about his journey. Now remember son, don't be like later men, don't talk to strangers, eat healthy, stay away from drugs, make friends, don't get too depressed. Remember that everyone has strength and weaknesses, and... But Naruto interrupted her. Okay mom, I get it. You don't need to baby me anymore, said Naruto, but was bonked on the head for interrupting her. Shut up and let me be a mother. That's letting go off his son, said irritated Artemis, but later hug her son saying how much she's going to miss him. But also remember this, those who break the rules are trash. Those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I learned that from your father, said Artemis while still holding the life out of Naruto, and he nodded. As she let go of him, he said how grateful he was and thankful that he spent every single second with his mother, but still doesn't have the emotion for it, but was still thankful for it. As he was about to leave, Zoe came up to him and hugged him. This surprised everyone including Artemis, since Zoe was one of the biggest man-hater in the world, but couldn't help but smile at her and hope her son and Zoe would get together even if Zoe had to leave the hunt. Good luck on your journey Naruto to Camp Half-Blood, and I hope we see each other again, said Zoe with a blush on her face. I do too Zoe, I do too. And with that, Naruto left and headed to Camp Half-Blood on the road ahead. On the road, Naruto has been walking for an hour now and was told that he would reach Camp Half-Blood in 3 days if he walked on foot. He saw a store a few steps away and went in to get a few stuff, but what he brought was a box of cigarettes. That's right folks, Naruto is a smoker. During his time en route, he developed a habit of smoking. He did because it was a way to relieve stress and was a way for him to ask Lord Danzo if he could smoke, and he didn't really care what his root agents do in their spare time, like Sai was painting and Torun was collecting venom beetles. He had to go 1 month without smoking with his mother and Hunter were there and do anything to get him to stop smoking, and he didn't wanted that. As he left the store and cigarettes out and put one of his mouth and lit on fire with his lighter, and started smoking while walking to his destination and started to blow smoke out. After walking for 3 days, he was nearly there at Camp Half-Blood. He saw the camp at a distance, but what he also saw in front of him was a boy around 12 years old and another boy who has curly brown hair, brown eyes, small horns, Caucasian skin, chin, wispy beard and hairy brown goat legs, and sees he is a satyr and was being attacked by a creature with a bull head and has a muscular body of a man but with fur covering him and seems to have one of his horns cut off. This creature seems to be the Minotaur from his lesson in Greek mythology. The 2 boys seems to be in trouble and Naruto decided to help. He unsealed his katana from his scrolls and headed to their direction. Is this it? Is this the end? Thought the black-haired boy as the Minotaur brought his fist down to him, but the impact didn't happen. He looked to see a boy with blood hair with auburn streaks on his hair stop the Minotaur's fist with his sword. He then jumped up and kicked the Minotaur in the foot and pushing him back a good distance, and with that everything went black. Naruto just stood there emotionlessly, and he saw a couple of more people coming to them and just stood there staring at him, and as they were about to say something, they heard Minotaur roared and rushed to Naruto, as others told to get out off the way or run to camp, but he just stood there in a stance waiting for him to come. As the Minotaur got close to Naruto, he raised his katana and shouted, "Futon, wind style, slash of the dragon." As he slashed the Minotaur vertically with the wind-coated katana, as the Minotaur simply walked past Naruto, he unsheathed his katana and the Minotaur was cut in half, resulting to two cut pieces of the Minotaur's body to fall in two opposite directions, leaving golden blood splattered everywhere, and then the two body parts turned to gold dust. All of the people around just watched the scene in shock on what happened and was staring at Naruto wearily. He just walked up to them and they were scared on what he's going to do. "Is this camp half-blood?" he asked the people in front of them, and they nodded. "Well, my mother told me to come here and live at this camp from now on." "Wait, you're a half-blood?" asked a half-man and half-horse, which he can tell was a centaur, and nodded. "Well, help me with this boy and let's head to camp." As Naruto nodded and carried the boy on his shoulder. As they walked to camp, the centaur decided to ask him something. "You said your mother told you to come, right?" As Naruto nodded. "Who is your mother exactly? You look familiar somewhere." "Well, my mother is," but was interrupted by a light that hit him and that woke everyone up and went out of their cabins to see what was going on. "He's being claimed. I wonder who his Olympian parent is," said a blonde girl with a Yankees hat on. And on his forehead appeared two symbols. One was bow and arrow with a crescent moon behind it and a Chinese dragon with what seems to be the sea on the bottom and storms on top, and which that shocked everyone. "There has to be some kind of mistake. He couldn't be hers. She wouldn't, would she?" asked the blonde girl in shock. "She has, and I didn't expect her son to be here," said the centaur. "Wait, you know she had a son?" as the blonde girl asked the centaur, who nodded. "But who's the other symbol off?" Before anyone could ask, a man with a chubby face, a red nose and curly hair so black it looks purple, and was wearing a tiger-striped Hawaiian shirts and purple running shoes, went up to Naruto and bowed down, and soon everyone did the same thing and saw nymphs, stars and other nature spirits appeared and bowed as well. The man then shouted across the area where everyone can hear, "All hail Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Artemis, goddess of the moon and the hunt, and Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage and descendant of Susanoo, Shinto god of the sea and storms." Naruto, who was just claimed a minute ago, who was the son of Artemis, goddess of the moon and the hunt and descendant of Susanoo, Shinto god of the sea and storms. Naruto just looked around and seeing different reactions on people's faces, like their faces show that they were either in shock or disbelief. They couldn't believe that Artemis, who was the virgin goddess but also a man-hating virgin goddess, and let she had a child and a son no less. But not only that, he was also a descendant of a Shinto deity, not just any Shinto deity but one of the three major deity, Susanoo, the Shinto god of the sea and storms, and now confirming that the Shinto deities are real. As Naruto just looked around, seeing everyone is still shocked, and he didn't know why but really didn't give a crap. The centaur spoke up, gaining everyone's attention, and then said, "Look, I know you all have a lot of questions, but it's really late and we can discuss it in the morning." And as everybody nodded and headed back to their cabins, and the centaur walked up to him. He was a middle-aged white centaur from the waist down with thinning brown hair, bushy eyebrows, intense brown eyes and a scruffy beard. "Hello, young demigod. My name's Chiron and I'm the director of this camp. I know you have some question, but I happily answer those questions tomorrow. It is pretty late and I think you should rest after traveling here," said Chiron as Naruto nodded. "So where do I stay?" asked Naruto as Chiron pointed to a silver building or cabin with silver curtains, similar to the outfit of the hunters when he was staying at the hunters' camp. But what is significant about this cabin is that it's glowing silver during nighttime, as if reflecting the moon. As Naruto heads to the cabin, he notices that every camper in their cabins is watching him at the window for some reasons and just waved it off. He reached there and opened the cabin and again saw the shocked or surprised face of everyone, but once again he waved it off and headed inside. As he went inside, He saw that the inside looks as the aura of nature similar to Kahona's forest. The walls were dark olive green with sliver vines and shape patterns on them. He saw many rooms from downstairs and upstairs, but he also saw names on the doors, so he began to look for the door with his name and he found it upstairs and headed in. He saw the same patterns and vines on the walls as downstairs. The room is a good size that has a master bed with olive green duvet and the pillows were sliver, a trophy case, a closet, a personal bathroom, and it also comes with desk with some stationery and what seems to be a computer since he was told about it during his time at the hunters camp on what the hell it is and how it works and came with an office chair. But he also noticed there was a letter on the desk and began to read it. Dear Naruto, if you're writing this then you made it to Camp Half-Blood. And if you're wondering why I didn't tell you that your grandfather was a Shinto god, and yes they do exist. Well, it's because your grandfather wants to surprise you in Camp Half-Blood and make it shocking since he also a trickster god and wanted to see everyone's reaction. But anyway, I'm here to inform you that the hunters will sometime come here and when they do, listen to them and be mindful. Knock before you enter the cabin and evening leaving. Well, that's all I got to tell you and good luck my son and please don't do anything stupid and make some friends please. Love your mother. Naruto just sigh. He didn't need his mother to baby him. He can take care of himself but couldn't help but be having this positive feeling he has inside of him that makes him want to smile but clearly he didn't. So he just went to bed and get some shut-eye. Flashback. Hiruzen was a fool. He was so naive that he could protect you and keep you safe, and he couldn't even prevent villagers from attacking you and setting your apartment on fire. My root agents came in time to save you out of that burning apartment. I'll take care of you and raise you, in exchange you become my weapon. You are still Naruto Uzumaki but when you put on that mask, you are known as Kitsune. Do you understand me boy? Yes, Danzo-sama. Good, now your training begins. But I do not care how much you beg or cry, during this training, do understand, as Naruto nodded at that. Good, let the session begin. End of flashback. As Naruto woke up and sat straight up and thought about that particular memory. Am I still Lord Danzo's weapon, but I'm no longer en route, do I have a purpose now? I guess this is a new start for me then, thought Naruto about the time when he began as a root Anbu agent. He got up, set his bed up and went to get a shower. After that he got dressed and got outside his cabin and again saw everyone was looking at him and now he was curious on why the hell are they looking at him. As he saw Kairan coming towards him with a smile on his face. Hello Naruto, as you already know, I'm Kairan and I'm the director of this camp and so I have decided to show you around the camp, said Kairan. Can I ask something? Asked Naruto as Kairan nodded. Why was everyone staring at me and looking at me so shocked? Well, it's because you were the first son of Artemis and no one believed it since she was a virgin goddess, not to mention a man-hating virgin goddess. But not to mention you are the Shinto descendant confirming to the campers that they are real and not to mention, you're the first Shinto descendant to ever come to Camp Half-Blood, said Kairan as Naruto nodded. But why were they still shocked when I was going in and out of my cabin? Oh, that's because whenever a boy ever touch or go near the Artemis cabin, they turn into jackalope for some time before they change back into a person, answered Kairan. Satisfied with the answer my boy, as Naruto nodded. Good now follow me, I'm giving you a tour of the camp. As Kairan was giving Naruto a tour around the camp, he noticed didn't have an expression or emotion for that matter, but he waved it off and continued with the tour and he decided to have a conversation with him. You know Naruto, as Naruto looked at him. When I first saw you, I thought you looked familiar somewhere and I was right, you look a lot like your father. You knew my father Kairan? Asked Naruto in an emotionless tone but was curious. Of course everybody in Olympus and me of course knew who your father was. There was a battle between your father and Zeus to see if he was worthy enough for your mother and was an incredible battle. Your father was very powerful and I was there to see that battle, and he earned everyone's respect. I was there for the wedding as well and I had the honor of meeting some Shinto gods and some primordials as well in that wedding, as Kairan remembered those memories of Minato. You said you met some Shinto gods, right? As Kairan nodded. What was my grandpa like? Susanoo was a trickster god and he was laid back and joke around a lot, but he was good man and honest as well but not to mention a very powerful god that could rival the primordials, as Kairan answered that question about Susanoo for Naruto. Before they could continue, a demigod came up to them. She had curly golden blonde hair and is tall, fit, and athletic. Her eyes are intense shade of gray and always have a distracted look as if she were thinking of a million things at once and natural tan. She is wearing an orange shirt with a Pegasus on it, wearing shorts and with a necklace with a couple of beads of them. Sorry, was I interrupting something? Said the blonde girl. No Annabeth, you weren't interrupting, said Chiron as he turned to Naruto. Naruto, this Annabeth Chase, a daughter of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, as Chiron introduced Naruto to Annabeth. Oh, nice to meet you, Annabeth, said Naruto in a polite tone but shown no emotion. Hello, your name's Naruto, right? As Naruto nodded. Wow, a son of Artemis and Susanoo. I can't wait to know more about you and I hope we can be friends, said Annabeth a bit cheerfully. Annabeth, I giving Naruto a tour. You want to help me with this tour? As she nodded. Before they continue the tour, Naruto notices a pine tree on top of a hill and feels that as if there was like a living person and showing a spiritual aura around it. Excuse me, Chiron, as Chiron and Annabeth looked at him. That tree over there, as Naruto pointed at the pine tree. Why do I feel that there's a soul in that tree, like if it was a living person? This surprised both Annabeth and Chiron thought of something. Since he the son of Artemis, maybe he can sense Talia's presence in the tree. There's only one way to find out, thought Chiron. Naruto, can you come with me? Asked Chiron as Naruto and Annabeth walked towards the pine tree and are now in front of it. Naruto, I want you to place your hand on the tree and close your eyes, instructed Chiron, and as Naruto placed his hand on the tree and closed his eyes, he feels that his mind is traveling somewhere like how the Yamanaka's mind transfer jutsu. In limbo, as Naruto opened his eyes and found him in a black room and clouds and lighting design on them. It looked like an apartment room with a bed, small kitchen and a TV of some kind. As he looked around, he saw a girl shoulder-length black spiky hair, with electric blue eyes with freckles across her nose and is wearing punk-style clothing. And she was looking at him in shocked. How are in here? Muttered the black-haired girl, but couldn't help but blush on how handsome he is. I don't know, but I have a theory, but first, what's your name? Asked Naruto. I'm Talia Grace, daughter of Zeus, answered Talia. So who are you? My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the son of Artemis and descendant of Susanoo, answered Naruto with an emotionless face. And like that, Talia's face shows a facial expression of pure shock and disbelief. This boy in front of her was the son of the man-hating goddess, and not to mention a descendant of one of the three major Shinto gods. So let me get this straight. You're the son of the man-hating goddess and a descendant of the Shinto god of the seas and storms, right? As Naruto nodded to her answer. Okay, so how did you get here, Naruto? Asked Talia. Well, I was asked by a centaur named Chiron with a girl named Annabeth, but was interrupted by Talia. Annabeth. Yeah, she was with me giving me a tour with Chiron, answered Naruto. I take it that you know Annabeth? Yeah, me and another demigod named Luke were very good friends and was together traveling to Camp Half-Blood with a satyr named Grover. But anyway, continue, explained Talia. Anyway, as I was saying, Chiron asked me to place my hand on this tree and I didn't know why, but I guess I see why he asked me to do it. So anyway, how long you were here for and why are you inside a tree? Asked Naruto politely. Well, that explains how you got here. So anyway, I was in this tree for 5 years, and to why I'm here because Hades found out about my existence and sent the worst kind of monsters after me. I stayed and fight them, but I was heavy wounded and at near death, so my father took pity on me and turned me to a tree, and this tree is used to protect Camp Half-Blood, and so here I am, in limbo, explained Talia. Talia, I do not know if this was the right thing for you to do, but you were very brave to do for your friends, said Naruto, which made Talia smile and blush a bit. Naruto, can you tell me about yourself? Asked Talia hopefully to get to more Naruto more. Maybe another time. I have to go back to Annabeth and Chiron and explain the situation to them, said Naruto as he saw the sad expression on Talia's face. Can you at least visit me once in a while? It gets lonely in here, and will you tell me about yourself? Asked Talia. Naruto was about to say something, but Talia had this pleading look, making her look adorable, and Naruto just sighed. Okay, I visit you once a day, said Naruto with a defeated look. Talia just smiled brightly and hugged Naruto, and he just hugged her back a little and pat her on the back. Thank you, Naruto. I hope I see you soon, and can you say hello to Annabeth and the others for me and tell them I'm doing fine in this hellhole? Yeah, I will. Till next time then, said Naruto as he took a few steps back and disappeared. Yeah, till next time. whispered Talia sadly with a blush on her face. Camp Half-Blood. As Naruto opened his eyes and turned to Chiron and Annabeth, but there was two other people there as well. One was a tall young man around his late teens or early 20s with short-cropped sandy blonde hair, blue eyes, an athletic and muscular build, and a sneaky look with a deep pale scar that runs from the bottom of his eye down to his chin. And there was the same satyr curly brown hair, brown eyes, small horns, Caucasian skin, chin wispy beard and hairy brown goat legs he saved yesterday, so this must be Grover. So Naruto, what did you see? Said Chiron, hoping his theory was right. Well, I meet a girl named Talia when I was in there, said Naruto as it surprised Annabeth, Grover and the blonde man. Really, how is she? Is she okay? And is she doing fine? Said Annabeth, excited and worried at the same time. Annie, let him speak, so continue Naruto, said the blonde man. Yeah, she's doing fine and she wants me to tell you and a guy named Luke and a satyr named Grover that she's doing fine in limbo, said Naruto, and he just looked at the satyr, and I guessing you're Grover, as Grover nodded. Likewise Naruto. Oh, and thanks for saving me and Percy from the Minotaur yesterday. Oh, and Luke is the guy next to me, said Grover, and as Luke just waved at him. And Grover just realized something. Annabeth, Luke, maybe you guys should check on Percy, he's walking up right now. Luke, can you go and give Percy the tour and show him around? I want to get to know Naruto a lot more, asked Annabeth as Luke nodded and left with Grover. So my theory was right. You can communicate with Talia since you have your mother's sense in nature, but enough about that, let's continue with the tour, said Chiron as they walked again and see some of the stuff in Camp Half-Blood. At the tour they saw other cabins, the climbing wall, the stables, armory, and even the beach in Camp Half-Blood. Alright, that's it for the tour and you may do whatever you want now, said Chiron as left Annabeth and Naruto. So Naruto, can you tell about yourself a bit? Asked Annabeth curiously. Well, I'm from a place called the Element Nations, but was interrupted by Annabeth. The Element Nation? Can you tell me about that place and the powers they have there please? Said an excited Annabeth with her eyes going wide. As Naruto explained the 5 major nations, he described that each one was different in landscape, like the land of wind and the sand village known as Suna was hidden in the sand, the land of water and the village was Kiri and was hidden in the mist, the land of lighting and its village Kumo was hidden in the clouds, the land of earth and its village is the Iwa hidden in the rocks. And his home was the land of fire hidden and its village was Konoha and is hidden in the leaves or a big forest. And then he explained to Annabeth that the power they use is Charka, which is spiritual and physical energy combined. He explained further that Charka can use for anything like walking on water and trees, using for combat and healing as well. He then went further on explaining that they can manipulate the 5 elements and make it in any shape they like. He gave her the basic details of taijutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, kenjutsu, and kinjutsu. So that's basically it, said Naruto as he finished explaining to Annabeth. So Naruto, what's your Charka nature if you mind me asking? Asked Annabeth curiously. Well, my nature chakra is wind, water, lighting and storm. I thought there were only 5 chakra natures? Asked Annabeth. Oh right, I forgot to explain Kekkei Genkei to you, responded Naruto. As he explained that Kekkei Genkei is a bloodline to certain clans or individuals that pass down genetically. They can be anything from dojutsu, which are eye techniques, they can manipulate their bodies to do something, unique ability, or combine 2 elements to form a sub-element like his storm release that combines water and lighting. Can you show me your storm release please? I want to see it, asked Annabeth hopefully to see Naruto's Kekkei Genkei. Okay, you might want to take a few steps back, said Naruto as Annabeth took a few steps back but still keeping her eye on Naruto. As Naruto did a few hand signs and pointed to the sky. Ranton, storm release, laser circus, as several beams of lighting flowing like water was shot up in the air and was so bright that all the campers saw and awesome it is, and then the beams died down and as Naruto looked at Annabeth, he saw this excited or cheerful look on her face. That was awesome Naruto, really awesome. So that was storm release, so that was your bloodline and I'm going to guess that you inherited that from your grandpa, said Annabeth who looked that she wanted to know more. Naruto just shrugged, not knowing how he got that particular bloodline, and that just made Annabeth pouted. But Annabeth noticed Naruto that he didn't show any emotion or expression for that matter in the entire tour but just waved it off. So they walked together and talked about a few things. They notice a boy with tea-black hair and bright sea-green eyes being harassed by a big, tall girl with long, stringy light brown hair, brown eyes and strong-looking wearing CBH shirt with a cameo vest on her along with 3 other girls similar to her who big and tall as well. Annabeth decided to intervene and not get the black-haired boy killed or something. Clarice, Annabeth's side also noticing the looks. Why don't you go polish your spear or something? Sure, Miss Princess, the big girl said. So I can run you through with it Friday night. Ras Korakas, Annabeth said, which was Greek for, go to the crows. Though he had a feeling it was a worse curse than it sounded. You don't stand a chance. We'll pulverize you, Clarice said. He then looked at Naruto. You're the guy that destroyed the Minotaur right and saved this whipper boy here? As Naruto nodded. Cool, whoever can do that has mine and the Ares cabin's respect, as the other 3 girls nodded at that. I have a name and it's Percy Jackson. Yes, and guys this is Clarice, daughter of Ares, god of war. Annabeth mumbled. The war god? Percy said with both eyebrows raised. Clarice sneered and held up Percy by the collar. You got a problem with that? No, Percy said, recovering his wits. It explains the bad smell. Naruto and Annabeth just had this look at their faces at Percy, basically saying, are you an idiot, or, that mouth is going to get you killed one day. Clarice growled, we got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Prissy. Percy, whatever. Come on, I'll show you. Clarice said as he dragged the boy to the bathrooms. Clarice, Annabeth tried to say. Stay out of it, wise girl. Clarice growled as she and the others walked away. Naruto. Annabeth rounded on her fellow blonde. You have to help him. Naruto then replied, it's his battles, not mine. He then grabbed the horn Percy dropped. They walked to the door. Annabeth and Naruto watched at the door as Clarice and her friends mocked Percy. As they began to push Percy's head toward the toilet, Naruto felt a powerful aura around Percy. What power? That boy there is really powerful. Huh? Annabeth asked. Then, one of the toilets shot out water at Clarice, and as her friends tried to help her, the other toilets exploded, blasting water all over the place and on except Annabeth and Naruto as Naruto grabbed Annabeth and jumped a few distance back before the water can hit them. Percy walked over to them with a shocked expression, but he was laughing in the inside at how funny Clarice and her friends were. Annabeth said, how did you? I don't know. Percy shrugged. They walked to the door. Outside, Clarice and her friends were sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarice's hair was flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping and she smelled like sewage. She gave me a look of absolute hatred. You are dead, new boy. You are totally dead. As she and her friends just stormed off. As Percy just looked at Naruto and Annabeth. Hey, you're that guy that saved me and Grover yesterday from the Minotaur, right? Asked Percy and Naruto nodded. Well, thank you for saving me and Grover for that. I'm Percy Jackson by the way. Naruto Uzumaki Namazake, responded Naruto in an emotionless tone with a blank look. Then Percy just looked at Annabeth and blushed a bit on how pretty she is and was looking at him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said, that I want the 2 of you on my team for capture the flag. The next few days both Naruto and Percy settled into a routine that felt almost normal. They were getting lessons from satyrs, nymphs, and a centaur, well mostly Chiron, but Naruto was already informed by his mother and was excused and did whatever the hell he does but does it anyway since he was basically ordered to. Each morning Percy took ancient Greek from Annabeth. They talked about the gods and goddesses in the present tense, which was kind of weird to Percy. Percy discovered Annabeth was right about his dyslexia. Ancient Greek wasn't that hard for him to read. At least, it was not harder than English. The rest of the day, they rotate through outdoor activities, looking for something they were good at. Chiron tried to teach Percy archery, but he found out pretty quick that he wasn't any good with a bow and arrow. Foot racing? No good either. The wood nymph instructors left him in the dust. They told him not to worry about it. They'd had centuries of practice running away from lovesick gods and whatever the hell that was chasing or trying to kill them. But still, it was a little humiliating to be slower than a tree. And wrestling? Forget it. Every time he got on the mat, Clarice would always pulverize him. The only thing he really excelled at was canoeing, and that wasn't the kind of heroic skill people expected to see from the kid who had fought with the Minotaur. And Naruto was just the opposite of Percy. He can shoot bullseye if every arrow he shot. Not that surprising for a child of Artemis and not to mention a shinobi. He was extremely fast and seemed that he didn't even sweat. Wrestling, Led just saw that all his opponent was humiliated and destroyed. Even though Naruto was good at canoeing and swimming, for some reason unknown, Percy always seemed to beat him, but Naruto really didn't care. They both soon later met the camp director Mr. D, who was that man with the chubby face and wearing that tiger-striped Hawaiian shirts and purple running shoes. But here's the thing, he was really Dionysus, the god of wine, madness, parties, ecstasy, and as well as theater. He didn't like Percy due to the fact that Percy due to him being a hero and the fact Percy unintentionally pissed him off. But for Naruto, they seem to be neutral, and the fact Naruto was willing to share his cigarettes as long as he doesn't tell his mother about his smoking addiction. And needless to say, they got along just fine, and even to the fact that Dionysus respects him. Then there was the horn that went throughout the camp, and Chiron's voice was announced through the camp. "Okay everyone, time for lunch. Please go to the mass hall please." As everyone was heading except for Naruto, and he just stopped Mr. D before going. "Mr. D, you mind if I can just skip lunch and go for a smoke and I just be by Talia's tree," said Naruto. "Go ahead boy, do what you like," said Mr. D with a bored tone. "Okay thanks, but by the way, is my mother watching us now?" asked Naruto. "Well she can, but right now, I think it's the time that she and her hunters are going hunting, so if you want to smoke, I suggest you smoke now if you don't want her to find out," said Mr. D. And just like that they went to their respective destination as Mr. D headed towards the mass hall while Naruto headed to Talia's tree to smoke and chat with her as he promised Talia to come by once in a while. Mass hall. As Percy enters the mass hall and notice a few campers staring at him like they did when they all saw him and Naruto. They heard that Percy managed to survive and wound the Minotaur while Naruto came and saved both him and Grover from the Minotaur and killed with a single sword slash. He got a box with the Minotaur horn in it and was told that every time a monster is destroyed, it leaves something behind as a spoil of war, and got looks of respect and admiration from campers and looks of gel by using a Uzi from big and burly kids. During the past few days, Percy managed to make a few friends like the Luke, Annabeth, the Strolls, Katie Gardiner, Selena Beauregard, Lee Fletcher, Michael Yu, and Charles Beckendorf. But Naruto managed to get alone with them, and they all had this feeling that Naruto doesn't seem that social or even that interactive and didn't show any type of emotion at all and just remained like a mindless boy. They wanted to know what is with Naruto and going to get it. "Excuse me, Chiron," said Annabeth, and Chiron looked at her. "Do you know what's going with Naruto and why he seemed to be so emotionless?" And everyone in the mass hall just stayed quiet and looked at Chiron if he's going to answer, and every camper was curious about the son of Artemis, which was still weird to them. Chiron and Mr. D looked at one another, and Mr. D nodded and Chiron sighed and started to explain. "Did Naruto told you any of you of his worlds?" asked Chiron, and Annabeth put up her hand and everyone just looked at her. "Yeah, he told me that he was from another world where there are ninjas or shinobi, as he described, have unimaginable power by using an energy source known as charka, which is the mix of physical and spiritual energy," answered Annabeth, which left a lot of stunned look from the campers, a fascinated look from the Athena campers, and excited look from the Ares campers, since now they have someone to fight that is strong and worthy to them. "Well, you're half right, Annabeth. The world he came from is also ruled, as well as Japan in this world, by Izanami and Shinto gods," replied Chiron, and to which it got more shocked looks from the campers except for Percy, who had no idea who Izanami and who the Shinto gods are, and got and asked Chiron. "Chiron, who is Izanami and who are the Shinto gods?" asked a confused Percy, and a few campers were curious themselves. "Let's see, the Shinto gods are basically the gods of Japanese culture and mythology or history. They are said to be more powerful than the gods and titans themselves and could rival the primordial," said Chiron as he said, which got an even more shocked look from everyone. "Something is more stronger than the gods and titans and could rival the primordial, that's unheard of," and Chiron just continue. "But I will now explain who are the Shinto deities are. First there is Izanami, the primordial goddess of creation and death, and her powers are equal to Chaos, the creator of our universe, and she is also known as Kami or God in general, and former ruler of Yomi and passed it down to Susanoo. Next is Izanagi, the Shinto primordial of creation and life and former ruler of heaven. And then came the big three in the Shinto religion: Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun and the universe but also the ruler of heaven, who is the current queen of the Shinto religion after the throne was passed down from Izanagi. Next is Tsukuyomi, the Shinto god of the moon and night, who was Amaterasu's brother and ex-husband after she annulled their marriage. And the youngest brother one and also Naruto's grandfather Susanoo, the trickster god and also the god of the seas and storm and former ruler of Yomi when he passed the throne to Yomi to the Shinigami, who is the current ruler of Yomi and is the god of death and suicidal desire, or basically the equivalent of Hades, explained Chiron. But wait, why did Izanami pass the throne over and why was Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu marriage was annulled? Asked Percy as he and others want to find out. Well, the Shinto gods believed that the throne should be passed down to generation like Chaos passed the throne to Erebus and Nyx and passed it down to Oranos. She believed that if you continue to be in the throne and not pass it down, then it would change you to something obnoxious and arrogant like Oranos, Kronos and sadly Lord Zeus, when they would do anything to keep their throne, even if they have to kill innocents to do it, and Lady Izanami doesn't want that to happen to her. And to answer your question on why Lady Amaterasu marriage was annulled is because Tsukuyomi killed the food goddess Uke Mochi out of disgust on how she served Tsukuyomi, and when Lady Amaterasu learned what happened, she was so angry that she refused to ever look at Tsukuyomi again and deeming him an evil god, forever moving to another part of heaven and their marriage annulled. And that is the reason that day and night are never together. Does that satisfy your answer, Percy? As Percy nodded and a few campers as well agreeing with Izanami's choice on passing the throne like Chaos and Erebus did, and as well as agreeing with Amaterasu annulling her marriage with Tsukuyomi and had every right to do that. Anyway, back to Naruto's situation. They are actually shinobi or ninjas who are there to fight and kill if they are ordered to. They are extremely dangerous and some could rival the Olympians or Titans, and they are S-rank ninjas or over like the leaders of each village, but some can be more powerful than the Olympians or even the big three, and they are SSS rank shinobi, and one particular is Naruto's father Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage who bet Zeus, explained Chiron, and received a lot of disbelief from the campers and they all thought, impossible. Or, no way, and some would have, wow, that is truly amazing. A mortal or demigod has defeated the king of Olympus. To answer why Naruto is the way he is, it's because he was a member of the root Anbu of Konohagakure, Chiron said with a dark look, and Mr. D couldn't help but also have a dark look as well while drinking a diet soda. The campers were confused on who were this root Anbus and why both Chiron and Mr. D did had that look, and it couldn't be pretty, so Annabeth decided to ask. Who exactly are these root Anbu and are they connected to way Naruto is? Root Anbu is led by the current Hokage of Konoha, Danzo Shimura. Chiron said his name with venom. The root Anbu carries out missions that Danzo believes will benefit Konoha, but to us, it was something that would benefit him. These root Anbu were trained to have no emotion or any sense of humanity or take it away in them. They would carry out missions like murder, assassination, torture and even kidnapping. Lady Artemis didn't like on what happened to Naruto and decided to take him here, hoping that we would regain his emotion and gain some friends. Chiron finished explaining as he looked around the mass hall. He saw that everyone had a look of anger and rage, even the Ares campers. How could they do that to Naruto, and if they ever meet this Danzo Shimura then he would be sorry. Why? Why did this Danzo do this and to Naruto? Why him? Roared a very angry and disgusted Annabeth. Because Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, which got the campers confused again, and he sighed and explained. They are humans that have tailed beasts sealed within them. They exhibit extraordinary powers due to the immense chakra reserves they possess. Jinchuriki are typically lonely and miserable people, as they are often shunned and discriminated by their fellow villagers, who view them as the tailed beasts themselves and not as the keeper of the beast. And it got some look of fear, but no one didn't believe that Naruto was the Kyuubi itself but as the keeper of it. But overall, no one couldn't believe these villagers and couldn't more disgusted with them. And to why Danzo took Naruto as a member of Root is because Danzo wants Naruto as his weapon and to be his emotionless lapdog, and Naruto could have begun full-on emotionless if Lady Artemis didn't take him. Then you would have become full-on emotionless and just have no mind or sense at all. Now Lady Artemis requested that you all try to befriend him. He might seem interested or really care, but I can tell that he needs a friend, and Lady Artemis hopes that you could help him regain his humanity and emotions if you are willing to do it. said Kairon as he looked around the campers, and they were all nodding and immediately agreeing on being friends with Naruto. And Annabeth stood up and looked at Kairon and began to say what the whole camp is thinking. Kairon, we will befriend him. We will promise you and Lady Artemis to help him regain his humanity and emotions and be there for him as friends, and we will continue even if it takes months or years to do, announced Annabeth as she looked around the mass hall and shouted, "Right guys?" And immediately the whole camp cheered with a, "Hell yeah," or, "You got that right." Kairon and Mr. D couldn't help but smile at that response, and willing to do that for one suffered soul. "Alright everyone, since everyone has finished their lunch, please get an hour break before you head to the field for Capture the Flag," announced Kairon as all the campers got up and left the mass hall getting ready for Capture the Flag. And now it's just Kairon and Mr. D alone in the hall, and Kairon faced Mr. D. "Do you think they can help Minato's son? Time will tell, Kairon, time will tell." And with that, Kairon left the hall and Mr. D just stayed there finishing his diet soda before flashing out of the mass hall. Limbo. As Naruto is currently in limbo with Taliah and did promise her to visit at least once a day. He is currently telling her about his world and his life to her. She was fascinated with his world and the power they use. She has learned that the Element Nation contains 5 land and each has 1 village as its capital, and learned that Naruto was from Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. She also learned about shinobi or ninjas are the main military power in the Element Nations. He has described to her their roles, rank and power. She learned that they use an energy called chakra, where it is a mixture of spiritual and physical energy which allows them to manipulate it to any shape, and nature manipulation where they can use the 5 elements in any way they can. As Naruto was telling her about his story as a root Anbu agent, where he was used as an emotionless tool and weapon to his leader, Danzo Shimura, the current Hokage of Konoha, and also learned that he was something called a Jinchuriki, where a person has a tailed beast inside of him, and was the container to the Kyuubi. At first she's shocked that Naruto was a Jinchuriki, but didn't show any fear because she sees him as the container and not the beast itself. She was also disgusted and angered towards Danzo on the things he did and to what he did to Naruto, but her anger towards Danzo increased when Naruto said he didn't committing all these acts and didn't show any emotion to it. She was really glad that Lady Artemis took Naruto with her, away from Danzo. "And then I came here and was claimed by my mother and grandpa," said Naruto as he finished explaining the story of his past to Taliah, and then looked at her in the eyes. "Well, that's my story, Taliah, so do you see me differently, Taliah?" "Naruto, I don't see you as a monster or as a killer, I see you as someone that can be saved. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, but I will support you in any way, and I would do on what Lady Artemis would me to do, save you. But that's the thing, am I worthy of being saved? Am I worthy of regaining emotions? I have them inside of me, but I can't show or express them in any way. Do you think I deserve to have this second chance for me, Taliah?" "Yes, Naruto, yes you do. I believe that everyone deserves a second chance, even you," said Taliah with a assuring smile. "But let me ask you something, did you ever regret on killing those people?" "I don't know, personally I never really wanted to kill the people I was assigned to, but they were ruthless killers that seek only things for themselves, and I know that with them dead, innocents from my village or even outside of my village would be safe and live in peace, but it doesn't change the fact that I have blood in my hands," answered Naruto in a calm, clear voice, but still with an emotionless expression. "Taliah just went up to you and hugged for comfort, and Naruto just lowered his head to her shoulder and patted him in the back. Naruto, it's okay, either it was the right thing or not, it's really up to you on how you see it. I won't judge you, Naruto, and I'll be there for you if you need it. And you know why, Naruto?" asked Taliah, and Naruto shakes his head. "It's because I am your friend, Naruto, and that's what friends do for each other," finished Taliah with a kind smile on her face. Even though Naruto couldn't express the emotion, he was glad and relieved that Taliah didn't hate him or condemning him for the things he has done. He couldn't help but hug her back with his head still on her shoulder, and then whispered, "Thank you," to her, and stayed like that for a few minutes, and Naruto decided to let go of the hug and time to return to reality. "Taliah, it's time for me to go. Capture the Flag is in an hour," said Naruto, and Taliah responded with a pout but nodded since he can't stay with her forever. "But don't worry, I'll visit again tomorrow, okay, Taliah?" said Naruto, and Taliah smiled sadly and nodded again. And with that, Naruto faded away. Outside of Limbo. As Naruto wakes up and looks around his back in reality, he look around and still see he is still leaning on Taliah's pine tree and on the hill. As he looked around and saw at the bottom chatting with each other and heard that capture the flag is in 1 hour and decided to take a quick nap rest for a bit. Flashback. In a massive forest where it shows couple of Kiri nins screaming in agony, as they were being killed very quickly but was very brutal as well. One Kiri nin was tossed to very far distance and landed in the ground. He has long, brown hair, a long beard which he wears in strands adorned with beads, and his lips are also noticeably dark in color. The top of his head is wrapped in bandages, and he has an eye patch covering his left eye, sprouting from under his Kirigakure forehead protector. This was Jinpachi Munashi, one of the greatest members of the Seven Swordsmen of Kiri and greatest wielder of the Shibuki, the explosion blade. As Jinpachi was laying face down on the floor with half of his face is covered in blood and coughing out blood, and his sword was out of his reach. As he looked up and saw a fox-masked Konoha Anbu with a kanji on the mask, or in this case Naruto as Kitsune, all covered from his victim's blood, was heading towards Jinpachi but stopped when he noticed that one Kiri nin was still breathing. As Naruto headed towards the Kiri nin, and when Naruto was in front of him, he started to continue stomping on his head multiple times, leaving the Kiri nin to scream in agony, and then to one final stomp where the Kiri nin's head splattered everywhere, leaving more blood to be on Naruto and the crushed brain of the Kiri nin crushed to pieces around the dead nin. As Naruto returned his attention back to Jinpachi and slowly headed until he was in front of Jinpachi and unsheathed his katana. Any last words, Jinpachi Munashi? Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. You think I gonna beg and plead for my life? Well, you're fucking wrong. Yagura-sama and Kiri will have your head for this. I do not regret anything in my life. In fact, I enjoyed every single bit of it, including killing my brother. So go ahead, kill me, as Jinpachi finished his last words while still coughing out blood. Very well, if that is all, may you find peace. You were a worthy opponent, Jinpachi Munashi, but I have orders to do, as Naruto finished and stabbed Jinpachi in his left hand, who just screamed in pain. As Naruto performed a hand sign with his left hand while still holding the katana in his right hand. Raiden, lighting style, transmission shockwave. As pure electricity was coming from Naruto and headed towards his katana and going through Jinpachi's body and nervous system. As he began to scream in full-on agony and trashing around for a few minutes, then twitched for a few times and then stopped completely. And Naruto took his katana out of Jinpachi's hand, sheathed his katana back and began to walk away from the pile of dead Kiri nins. Flashback end. As Naruto began to walk up, a little bit sweated after revisiting his mission with Jinpachi Munashi and a couple of Kiri nin. Why did I relive that? Did I regret killing them? No, I do not regret killing him or those nin. They deserved to die after what they did in the Bloodline Civil War. I have 30 minutes left before the game. Better get my gear, thought Naruto as he got up and headed back to his cabin. Playing field 30 minutes later. At last, it was time for capture the flag. When the plates were cleared away, the conch horn sounded and we all stood at each tables. Campers yelled and cheered as Annabeth and two of her siblings ran into the pavilion carrying a silk banner. It was about 10 feet long, glistening gray, with a painting of a barn owl above an olive tree. From the opposite side of the pavilion, Clarice and her buddies ran in with another banner, of identical size, but gaudy red, painted with a bloody spear and a boar's head. Ah, so those must be the flags. Percy stated. Yeah, he heard Luke say. Ares and Athena always lead the teams? Percy asked. Not always, Luke said. But really often. So, if another cabin captures one, what do? Repaint the flag? Percy asked. Luke grinned. You'll see. First we have to get one. Whose side are we on? Naruto asked. Luke gave them a sly look that, combined with his scar, made him look evil in the torchlight. We've made a temporary alliance with Athena. Tonight, we get the flag from Ares. And you and Naruto are going to help. The teams were announced. Athena had made an alliance with Apollo and Hermes, the two biggest cabins. Apparently, privileges had been traded, shower times, chore schedules, the best slots for activities, in order to win support. Ares had allied themselves with everybody else: Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus. From what Percy has seen, Dionysus's kids were actually good athletes, but there were only two of them. Demeter's kids had the edge with nature skills and outdoor stuff, but they weren't very aggressive. Aphrodite's sons and daughters they weren't too worried about. They mostly sat out every activity and checked their reflections in the lake and did their hair and gossiped. Hephaestus's kids weren't pretty, and there were only 4 of them, but they were big and burly from working in the metal shop all day. They might be a problem. That, of course, left Ares's cabin. A dozen of the biggest, ugliest, meanest kids on Long Island, or anywhere else on the planet. Chiron hammered his hoof on the marble. "Heroes," he announced, "you know the rules. The creek is the boundary line. The entire forest is fair game. All magic items are allowed. The banner must be prominently displayed, and have no more than 2 guards. Prisoners may be disarmed, but may not be bound or gagged. No killing or maiming is allowed. I will serve as referee and battlefield medic. Arm yourselves." He spread his hands, and the tables were suddenly covered with equipment. Helmets, bronze swords, spears, oxhide shields coated in metal. "Whoa," Percy said in surprise. "We're really supposed to use these?" Luke looked at him as if Percy had gone crazy. "Unless you want to get skewered by your friends in cabin 5. Here." Chiron thought these would fit. "You'll be on border patrol." While Luke was fitting Percy with Greek armor, but didn't know where Naruto was. "Hey, where's Naruto? Shouldn't he be here?" asked Percy, but before Luke can someone interrupted. "I'm right here," as they both looked at the direction of the voice and saw who they were looking for. Naruto was standing there wearing a black t-shirt and black cargo pants, his hands and wrist taped with white bandage and wearing gray light durable armor on his chest, shins and arm with his katana strapped on his back. "While that is an awesome armor you're wearing, Naruto." Before Naruto could answer, Annabeth came over, yelled, "Blue team, forward." The group cheered and shook their swords and followed her down the path to the south woods. The red team yelled taunts at them as they headed off toward the north. Percy though wondered why his blonde friend did not take out his weapon, not that he knew that Naruto was armed to the teeth. Percy made his way to the Annabeth without tripping all over his armor and said, "Hey." Though she just kept on marching. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "Got any magic items you can loan me?" Naruto noticed that her hand was hovering over her pocket when Percy asked that. Quirking an eyebrow, he decided to get in more to eavesdrop. "Just watch Clarice's spear," she said. "You don't want that thing touching you. Otherwise, don't worry. We'll take the banner from Ares. Has Luke given you your job?" "Border patrol, same as Naruto, whatever that means. It's easy. Stand by the creek, keep the Reds away. Leave the rest to me. Athena always has a plan," she said as he pushed ahead, leaving him in the dust. "Okay," Percy mumbled. "Glad she wanted me on your team. Come on, let's get started," said Naruto as they head to their roles and job. Day had turned to night by now as Naruto and Percy were stationed next to a little creek that gurgled over some rocks. Then she and the rest of the team scattered into the trees. The two stood there for a little bit and groaned. Naruto knew he and Percy were going to be left in the dust since they were new, so he made a shadow cone just as a horn sounded and they heard whoops from enemy territory. While he left a copy to watch over Percy, he went into the forest to observe the campers. He was watching campers beating the crap out of each other until his memories of the clone he left with Percy, it dispelled itself right as Clarice attacked Percy. I wonder what she has against him. He wondered aloud as he shunshined to where Percy was, only behind a tree so he could surprise them. Climbing to a tree branch, he watched as Percy did his best against Clarice and her friends. "Give him a haircut," Clarice said. "Grab his hair." Percy managed to get to his feet. He raised his sword, but Clarice slammed it aside with her spear as sparks flew. Now both of his arms felt numb. "Oh, wow," Clarice said. "I'm scared of this guy. Really scared." "The flag is that way," Percy told her. "Yeah," one of her siblings said. "But see, we don't care about the flag. We care about a guy who made our cabin look stupid. You do that without my help," Percy growled out, and he instantly regretted it because it was probably the dumbest thing to say at the moment. Two of them came at Percy. He backed up toward the creek, tried to raise his shield, but Clarice too fast. Her spear stuck his straight in the ribs. If he hadn't been wearing an armored breastplate, he would have been shish kebabbed. It still hurt like hell because the point got trough and shocked him. One of her cabin mates slashed his sword across his arm, leaving a good-sized cut. No maiming, Percy got out, feeling dizzy. Now Naruto had enough. He took out something to end this. "Oops," the guy said. "Guess I lost my dessert privilege." They then pushed Percy into the lake, which was a mistake for them. Before the Ares kid could strike Percy, Naruto jumped down and kneed that Aries kid to the face, knocking him out. What the hell? Another kid yelled as all of them moved back a bit, but when they looked up, it was Naruto standing next to Percy. Where were you? He heard Percy, who looked all healed up now. Observing every single thing in this game, Naruto said with an emotionless face. Damn it, one the Aries kid said. Charge. Naruto decided to fight them all on hand-to-hand combat. Let's see what they are made of, thought Naruto. Two Aries kids rushed to Naruto, but Naruto just kicked one in the chin, super kick, making him fall to the ground, and he focused back to the other Aries kids and then elbow smashed the running Aries kid to the jaw, knocking a couple of teeth out. As Clarice decided to take Percy and the other Aries kids decided to take on Naruto. Big mistake. One tried to punch behind and Naruto just simply ducked and he hit another Aries kid to the face, knocking him down, and Naruto grabbed that kid from behind and reverse DDT him to the ground. Two more tried to get, but Naruto just combat rolled away from them and then Enzwagiri kick an aware camper from the back of his head, making him fall in front. Naruto got backed up and went back to the two Aries camper and Enzwagiri kick one of them who was charging at him. And the other tried to get Naruto from behind, but he simply got kicked in the stomach, holding it in pain, and Naruto hold him in a 3/4 face lock and jumps backward and performing a backflip in the air, and landing face down, driving him back. First down, Skywalker. Naruto saw one of the Aries campers he knocked down early was trying to get up and simply ran up and stomped him in the head, pushing his head to the ground, blackout stomp, knocking him out cold. Well, that was pathetic, thought Naruto as he finished knocking out and beating all his opponents. He saw Percy manage to break Clarice's spear and were still fighting until they heard yelling, elated screams, and they saw Luke racing toward the boundary line with the red team's banner lifted high. He was flanked by a couple of Hermes guys covering his retreat, and a few Apollos behind them, fighting off the Hephaestus kids. The Ares folks got up, and Clarice muttered a dazed curse. A trick, she shouted. It was a trick. They staggered after Luke, but it was too late. Everybody converged on the creek as Luke ran across into friendly territory. The blue side exploded into cheers. The red banners shimmered and turned to silver. The boar and spear were replaced with a huge caduceus, the symbol of Cabin 11. Everybody on the blue team picked up Luke and started carrying him around on their shoulders. Chiron cantered out from the woods and blew the conch horn. The game was over. They had won. The boys were about to join the celebration when Annabeth's voice, right next to them in the creek, said, "Not bad, heroes." Percy looked around but should not see her. Naruto, however, did. She took off the cap she was wearing and said, "Where the heck did you learn to fight like that?" Percy was at first shocked before he pointed to Naruto. "You set us up. You put us here because you knew Clarice would come after me, while you sent Luke around the flank. You had it all figured out." Annabeth shrugged. "I told you. Athena always has a plan. A plan to get me pulverized. I came as fast as I could. I was about to jump in, but..." She shrugged. "You didn't need help. Naruto came in pretty quickly and destroyed the Ares campers." Annabeth then looked at Percy's arm. "How did you do that?" "Sword cut," Percy said. "What do you think?" "No, it was a sword cut. Look at it." Naruto noticed it as well since it is already healed up. I don't get it," Percy said, shocked. The blood was gone. Where the huge cut had been, there was a long white scratch, and even that was fading. It turned into a small scar and disappeared. Annabeth was thinking hard. She looked down at his feet, then at Clarice's broken spear, and said, "Step out of the water, Percy." "What? Just do it." Sighing, he got out and looked bone dry. He also looked to have the adrenaline rush gone that he had when fighting. So he fell, but Annabeth quickly supported him. "Oh, sticks," she cursed. "This is not good. I didn't want. I assumed it would be Zeus." Naruto looked at her oddly before he got it as well, but he did not have much time to voice his thoughts because he heard a growl before a loud howl ripped through the forest. The campers' cheering died instantly. Chiron shouted something in ancient Greek, which he and Percy somehow knew it was, "Stand ready." "My bow." Annabeth drew her sword. There on the rocks just above them was a black hound the size of a rhino, with lava-red eyes and fangs like daggers, and it was looking straight at Percy. Annabeth told him to run, but he was frozen in fear at this beast, so she stood in front of him. That didn't do much for him because it just jumped over her and landed right in front of Percy. He fell on his ass as it slashed at him and snarled, showing its many teeth to the young boy and charging towards him. Naruto opened his palm and a ball of energy formed in his hand and charged at it. Rasengan, and hit the dog, knocking it a good distance back. Jumping away, he cursed as he saw the wound on the beast was healing up. Naruto did a hand sign and sucked some air in and said, "Sweeten, water style, severing wave." As high pressure of water came out of Naruto's mouth, piercing the dog through its body, and the dog stopped on its tracks with golden blood coming out of it. And Naruto moved his head vertically up with the high-pressured water until the water is no longer in contact with the dog, splitting it in half. "Whoa," said one of the younger Aries campers. There was a murmuring of whispers on how the heck Naruto had done that, so this is the power of a shinobi, and especially of a root Anbu level shinobi. Chiron trotted up next. Percy. "D Immortales," Annabeth said. "That's a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not supposed to." "Someone summoned it," Chiron said. "Someone inside the camp." Luke came over, the banner in his hand forgotten, his moment of glory gone. Clarice yelled, "It's all Percy's fault. Percy summoned it." "Be quiet, child," Chiron told her. They watched as what remained of the body of the hellhound melt into shadow, soaking into the ground until it disappeared. "You're wounded," Annabeth told Percy. "Quick, Percy, get in the water." "I'm okay." "No, you're not," she said. "Chiron, watch this." Percy was too tired to argue. He stepped back into the creek, the whole camp gathering around him. He instantly looked a lot better, and the cut on his chest healed up like nothing had happened. "Look, I don't know why," he said, trying to apologize. "I'm sorry." But they were not watching that. He saw that their eyes were above his head. "Percy," Annabeth said, pointing upward. By the time he looked up, the sign was already fading, but he could still make out the hologram of green light, spinning and gleaming. "A three-tipped spear, a trident." "Your father," Annabeth murmured. "This is really not good." "It is determined," Chiron announced. All around Mayhem, campers started kneeling, even the Ares cabin, though they didn't look happy about it. "My father?" Percy asked, completely bewildered. "Poseidon," said Chiron. "Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail, Perseus Jackson, son of the sea god." Well, things have just got interesting, thought Naruto. Everyone had moved to the area in the middle of all the cabins. People had been shocked about Percy being the son of Poseidon, where he, Zeus and Hades swore to the river of Styx, where it is an oath that is powerful that could lead to result worse than death, to swore never to have demigods' children again. And now everyone discovered that Poseidon has also broke their oath along with Zeus. Everyone just looked at the scene in shock, well, except for Naruto, since he can't really show emotional expression including shock or surprise. First Zeus, and now Poseidon. Just great, two of the big three broken their oaths. "I swear they really need to keep it in their pants," said Chiron as he put his hand on his head and started shaking a bit. "What oath?" questioned Percy. "Not now, Percy, I'll explain later," said Chiron as he looked at the shock campers and then shouted around everyone, "Return to your cabins and then go on with your daily life." And with that, all the campers headed back to their cabins, and Mr. D just left to do whatever he was doing. Everyone left except for Percy, Naruto and Chiron were left. "Percy, I think you should get all your stuff and head to cabin number 3, since that is father's cabin, and stay there from now on," said Chiron, and Percy nodded and head back to the Hermes cabin to get his things and head to the Poseidon cabin. As Chiron was about to leave, he felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Naruto looking at him. "Chiron, what exactly is this oath? How does Percy relate to the big three oath they swore?" questioned Naruto, and Chiron just sighed in answer for Naruto. "Okay. The big three swore an oath to the river of Styx, where it is our powerful oath that if you break it, then the consequence would be worse than death. They swore to never have demigod kids again. Zeus was the first to broke it by having Talia, and now Poseidon has also broke that oath, and you can see why this is a surprise to everyone," explained Chiron, and Naruto just nodded in understanding. "So is that why Hades sent monsters to attack Talia, because Zeus broke the oath?" Naruto asked, and Chiron nodded. "So what about Percy? Will Hades send something to kill Percy?" "No, Hades and Poseidon have a better relationship, but Hades hates Zeus with passion, and it got worse after what Zeus did to Hades in World War II, said Chiron, as Naruto was going to ask Chiron on what happened between the two in World War II but decided to let it go. "Oh right, thanks Chiron for explaining this to me. I'm going to tell Talia on what happened moments ago. I see you later, Chiron. And with that, Naruto walked away and headed to Talia's pine tree, and Chiron just looked at the back of Naruto walking away. Minato, I just hope your son can regain his humanity and emotion, Chiron thought with a sad smile, and with that, he left the area. Limbo. And then I cut up the Hellhound in half with my water technique, as Naruto finished explaining what happened after capture the flag with the Hellhound. Okay, so let me get this straight? Talia yelled. You actually beat a huge Hellhound with a water technique? Well, it was my Sweden water style, severing wave, where it's kneading chakra in my stomach and converting it into water. Then I'm able to spews it out as a high-pressure stream that is powerful enough to cut cleanly through most objects, whether it's a human being or a large border. And I did cut the Hellhound in half, Naruto said with an emotionless tone and face, and she was smiling sadly. Was that jutsu belong to you? Asked Talia, and Naruto just shake his head. No, that move was innovated by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, and it was passed then to all his students that were water users, and I learned that jutsu from one of their descendants. So anyway, anything else I need to know? Yeah, apparently Percy was claimed after that, and he was the son of Poseidon, Naruto responded, making Talia's eyes widen. Wait, that Percy kid you told me about. Are you saying that he is the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea, storm, earthquakes and horses, one of the big three who swore to the river of Styx to never have demigod kids again? Said a shocked Talia with disbelief. Naruto nodded. Seems so. Apparently your dad and Poseidon can't keep it in their pants, said Naruto, and Talia chuckle a bit, and Naruto doesn't realize he was trying to be funny. It's like saying we will make all the promises we do unless it's are getting laid. Why don't they just fuck with other goddess or whatever the hell is immortal if they don't want to have any demigod kids? Talia doesn't either to laugh at what Naruto said or slap the back of his head for his use of language, but she decided to answer him. Don't know, maybe they realize incest is wrong, but I could be wrong. Talia giggle a bit, but then look serious. Naruto, things are about to get dangerous now. Percy is now a walking hazard to everyone now, and anything will try to get the opportunity to kill him. I ask you please to protect everyone, including Annabeth, Luke, Grover, and even Percy from the danger that is going to happen from now on. Can you do it? Asked Talia with hopeful eyes to Naruto. Naruto looked at Talia. She was looking at him with wide pleading eyes and making her look cute. Naruto just sigh and nodded, and Talia just smile and hugged Naruto. Thank you, Naruto, and I know you will protect them with your lives. Thank you. Talia, can you let go off me? I think it's time for me to return since it's late now, said Naruto, and Talia responded with a pout but nodded and let go of him. I come back tomorrow, okay? Said Naruto, and she nodded again, and he faded away and returned to reality. Camp Half-Blood Border. As Naruto began to wake up and looked around and shown that it was night time, he got up and headed back to his cabin to go back to sleep. Artemis cabin. Naruto entered his cabin and headed upstairs to his room and headed to his bed and lay down and put his blanket over him. I don't know why, but I got this feeling that I'm going to be involved in a lot of shit tomorrow, thought Naruto as he let darkness take over him and fell to sleep. Flashback. A very thin and tall in stature, which gave him an overall gangling appearance, was leaning on the back of a boulder. He had long, shaggy, straw-colored blonde hair, and his face was concealed by a white, porcelain mask, with a green-colored triangle on its lower half, slits for eye holes, and Kirigakure's symbol etched into the top but was cracked, revealing that section was bleeding rapidly. His attire consisted of a sleeveless black shirt, matching pants, complete with a waistguard, and Kirigakure's striped wrist and leg guards, and also wore bandages around his neck. This was Kushimaru Kurarare, another of the greatest generation of the seven swordsmen and the greatest wielder of the Nuabari, the long sword that can pierce everything and sew them together like a needle. He and Jinin Akabino, who wore a dark-colored beard and hair which he ties into a topknot. His face appears to be rather angular and features a very protuberant nose. He wears a dark-colored poncho cloth over a standard swordsman attire, with a sleeveless dark shirt and matching pants along with a waistguard, pin-striped arm and leg warmers, and the Kiri forehead protector on his head. He also has bandages around his neck. He was also a member of the greatest generation of the seven swordsmen of Kiri and the wielder of the Kabutowari, the blunt sword where the blade can break any defense. They were given a mission by Yagura, the fourth Mizukage, to enter Konoha and assassinate the third Hokage. But unfortunately they were intercepted by two Anbu. One was wearing lion mask, the other was wearing a fox mask. They realized that the fox Anbu was the one that killed Jinpachi Munashi, stated in the bingo book issued by Kiri to look out for the fox Anbu, whose identity was unknown but didn't really care, and they both engaged against the two Anbu to avenge their fallen comrade. Akabiono went to engage the lion Anbu while Kushimaru went on to fight Naruto head-on. They fought in an intense sword fight battle, but in the end Naruto managed to get Nuabari off him by cutting off his hand and kicked him in the head, superkick, knocking him back where he was knocked into a boulder and leaning on it. As he looked up from his position, he saw the fox Anbu or Naruto walking towards him with his katana in hand. He was now in front of Kushimaru. "Any last words?" asked Naruto to Kushimaru. "Yeah, I see you in hell, you piece of shit. I see you there too, but I have orders to do. Goodbye Kushimaru Kurarare," finished Naruto as he grabbed Kushimaru's hair and put him face first on the ground. As Kushimaru was trying to get up, Naruto enhanced his katana with wind and said, "Futon, wind style, slash of the dragon," and swing his katana down to his neck, decapitating his head as his body fell and his head rolled around, leaving a trail of blood everywhere. Naruto then headed towards Jin and Akabino and saw that he was engaged with his partner and headed towards them. As Jinin was about to attack again, he felt a hand on his shoulder and noticed that it was the fox Anbu with blood on his mask. "That means Kushimaru dead," thought Jinin, and before he could react, the fox Anbu said, "Raiden, lightning style, electromagnetic murder." His wave of electricity was power from a small surge to shock an opponent to a powerful stream of lightning capable of ripping through solid rock. Jinin was screaming in pain until he closed his eyes and screamed no more, knowing that he's dead. As Naruto let go of him where the body fell to the ground as the body was toasted and smoke was coming from his body, he looked at his partner and said, "Sai, let's head back and report to Lord Danzo that the mission is complete," Naruto said to the lion Anbu. "What about the body? Leave it, it's no use to us, and their body will be used as a message to Kiri." "Roger Naruto. It's Kitsune when I'm in the mask." Sai. Flashback end. Why am I reliving all these memories? Is my mind starting to get a conscious on killing Kushimaru Kurarare and Jinin Akabino? But they are bloodthirsty killers, but they were only obeying orders, but they did enjoy killing what was in front of them. I don't know anymore, thought Naruto, and then suddenly heard knocking on his door. "Naruto. Open the door, I got Percy, we had to get to the big house." Grover's voice came from his door. Naruto got up, put on new clothes on, headed downstairs and opened up the door to reveal Grover. "What does he need us for?" Naruto said, rubbing his eyes. "Just hurry, please." Okay, just fucking wait, let me change first," Naruto said as he walked back in, and a few minutes later, he was in his usual attire. "Okay, let's go." On the way there, Percy looked really nervous for some reason, like he thought he was in trouble for some reason, but Naruto didn't seem to notice, and the son of Poseidon looked at him and asked him, "I don't understand how you can be so calm. I mean, I'm a child that shouldn't have existed exist." "Percy, you're looking at the son of the virgin goddess. Well, used to be, and you don't see me bitch or act nervous about it. So in my opinion just don't think about and get on with your life," said Naruto, and Percy nodded. Naruto looked up and saw that the sky looked like it was ready to storm and said, "That is one big storm. I wonder it will actually rain." "No," Grover said. "It never rains here unless we want it to." Percy found himself agreeing to this because for as long as they have been here, it never rained, let alone being overcast at all. "What the heck is that, then?" asked Percy. Grover glanced uneasily at the sky. "It'll pass around us. Bad weather always does." They left it all that, but Naruto got the feeling that their half-goat friend was not telling them everything, because to him, that was a massive storm. At the volleyball pit, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the satyrs. Dionysus's twins were walking around in the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everybody was going about their normal business, but they looked tense. They kept their eyes on the storm. Big house. All three walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had on my first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, two sets of cards hovering in the air. Well, Mr. D said without looking up. "Our new celebrity." Come closer, Percy, Mr. D said. And don't expect me to bow to you, mortal, just because old Barnaclebeard is your father. He pointed to Percy, even if you are related to those three. And a net of lightning spread across the clouds above Mr. D, who didn't seem to care. Blah blah blah. Chiron feigned interest in his pinnacle cards. Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. If I had my way, Dionysus said, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel this would be against my mission at this cursed camp. To keep you brats safe from harm. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron put in. If it was me, I would just made it look like an accident, but I'm not actually going to do it, Naruto said, and Percy just looked at him with fear. Too much effort, Dionysus said. Plus Percy wouldn't feel a thing. Nevertheless, I've agreed to restrain myself. I'm thinking of turning you into a dolphin instead, sending you back to your father. Mr. D, Chiron warned, while everyone seemed to be on Percy's case. Oh, all right, Dionysus relented. There's one more option, but it's deadly foolishness. Dionysus rose, and the invisible player's cards dropped to the table. I'm off to Olympus for the emergency meeting. If he is still here when I get back, I'll turn Percy into an Atlantic bottlenose. Do you understand, Perseus Jackson? If you're at all smart, you'll see that's a much more sensible choice than what Chiron feels you must do. Dionysus picked up a playing card, twisted it, and it became a plastic rectangle. A credit card? No, a security pass. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a hologram, then a wind, then he was gone, leaving only the smell of fresh pressed grapes lingering behind. Chiron smiled and said, I would like you boys to sit down, please. They compiled. Chiron laid his cards on the table, a winning hand he hadn't gotten to use. Tell me, boys, what do you make of the Hellhound? It scared me, Percy replied. If Naruto hadn't sliced it in half, I would not be here right now. Heard about them from my mom, and she just told if I see any of those monsters, including the hound, she said I should kill it, Naruto said thoughtfully, making Percy look either grateful or in fear. Trust me, you two will have fought far worse when you are done. Chiron commented. Done, with what? Asked Percy. Simple, your blood is very powerful and it repels the weaker monsters, but only the strongest of the monsters will come after you. Chiron explained. Now Percy, what I meant was your joint quest. This kind of quest hasn't been done before, so do you accept it? Depends on what do we have to do, Naruto said with his arms crossed while Percy nodded to his comment. Chiron grimaced. Well, that's the hard part, the details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the edge of the beach. The boys looked over and thought it odd that the sea looked to be boiling over. Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus, Percy said. They're fighting over something valuable. Something that was stolen, aren't they? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. Chiron sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? Percy looked embarrassed at that for some reason. The weather since Christmas has been weird, like the sea and the sky are fighting. Then I talked to Annabeth, and she'd overheard something about a theft. And I've also been having these dreams. I knew it, Grover said. Hush, satyr, Chiron ordered. But it is their quest. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be. Only the oracle can determine. Chiron stroked his bristly beard. Nevertheless, Percy, you correct. Your fathers and Zeus are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise, a lightning bolt. Of course Hades is merely egging them on for his own amusement. A what? Percy chuckled nervously. Do not take this lightly, Chiron warned. I'm not talking about some tinfoil-covered zigzag you'd see in a second-grade play. I'm talking about a 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god-level explosives. Thankfully, it has not been used as a sword. Oh, Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now. The symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclops for the war against the Titans. The bolt that sheared the top off Mount Etna and hurled Kronos from his throne. The master bolt, which packs enough power to make mortal hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's missing? Asked Percy. Stolen, Chiron said. By who? By you, Percy. And then Percy's jaw dropped. At least, Chiron held up a hand. That's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, at last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. The usual nonsense. Mother Rhea always liked you best, air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his very nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Of course he blamed Hades as well. He think it would be useful in the underground. A lot of people know he really couldn't care less about their petty arguments, but he would not stay down if someone accused him of something like that. Now, a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly. That is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your fathers convinced a human hero to take it. But I didn't. Patience and listen, children, Chiron said. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the master bolt, and is now secretly having the Cyclops build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over the winter holidays. You could easily have snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. Okay, so why am I here then? Naruto asked with confusion. I got a Iris message from Uncle Apollo to bring you along with Percy since it's going to be a benefiting factor with you go with Percy on this quest and there's something waiting for you at this quest, do not ask. I know what is waiting ahead for you Naruto but it's at the most importance. Okay. Wish I got more info on this matter, Naruto said in an emotionless tone. I never been to Olympus. Zeus is crazy. Percy was freaking out. Chiron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around them, as Grover had promised. They were rolling straight over our valley, sealing them in like a coffin lid. Percy, Grover said. We don't use the C word to describe the Lord of the Sky. Perhaps paranoid, Chiron suggested. Then again, Poseidon has tried to unseat Zeus before. I believe that was question 38 on your final exam. He looked at Percy as if he actually expected him to remember question 38. Something about a golden net? I guessed. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods. They, trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler, right? Correct, Percy, Chiron said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the master bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war. Hades just said he didn't, not feeling like starting a war for he already has too much work. And now, you two have come along, the proverbial last straw. But I'm a just kid. Percy freaked. Percy, Grover cut in, if you were Zeus, and you already thought your brothers was plotting to overthrow you. Then your brothers suddenly admitted that they had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that they have fathered a couple of new mortal heroes who might be used as a weapon against you. Wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? But I didn't do anything. Poseidon, my dad, he didn't really have this master bolt stolen, did he? Chiron sighed. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style. But the sea god is too proud to try convincing Zeus of that. Zeus has demanded that they return the bolt by the summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief by the same date, just that this matter be solved before he is overloaded. I hope that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the two brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the master bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like, Percy? Bad? Percy guessed. Imagine the world in chaos. Nature at war with itself. Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus and Poseidon. Destruction. Carnage. Millions dead. Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it will make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. Bad, Percy repeated. This like Kiri and Yagura all over again, said Naruto as he put his right hand on his head. And you Percy Jackson, shall be the first two to feel Zeus's wrath. Percy had a dumbstruck look on his face. So we have to find the stupid bolt, Percy said. And return it to Zeus. Pretty much Percy, answered Naruto. What better peace offering, Chiron said, than to have the son of Poseidon return Zeus's property? If Poseidon doesn't have it, where's the thing? Percy asked. I believe I know. Chiron's expression was grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me, now. But before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the oracle. Why can't you tell me where the bolt is beforehand? Percy asked. Because if I did, you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Percy swallowed. Good reason. You agree then? Percy looked to Grover, who nodded, and then to Naruto, who looked ready for anything. They nodded to each other, and at the same time, they said, we accept. Besides, it is better than being turned into a dolphin. Percy stated. Then it's time you two consulted the oracle, Chiron said. Go upstairs to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. Attic. Percy and Naruto went up 4 floors that ended under a green trapdoor. Percy pulled the cord and it swung open to reveal a ladder. The warm air from above smelled like mildew and rotten wood and something else. Something that Percy remembered from biology class about snakes. Of course it really smelled bad, so they covered their faces as they went up. The attic was filled with Greek hero junk. Armor stands covered in cobwebs. Once bright shields pitted with rust. Old leather steamer trunks plastered with stickers saying ITHAKA, Circe's Isle, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things. Severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, various other parts of monsters. A dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake's head, but with horns and a full set of shark's teeth. The plaque read, Hydra Head No. 1, Woodstock, NY, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the wrapped in cloth kind, but a human female body shriveled to a husk. She wore a tie-dyed sundress, lots of beaded necklaces, and a headband over long black hair. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over her skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits, as if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles. She'd been dead a long, long time. Percy got a freaked-out look on his face while Naruto didn't seem to really care. Then, a green mist poured from the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils, hissing like 20,000 snakes. Percy fell over and tried to get out, but the trapdoor was shut tight. Naruto was stone still as he glared at the mist, not liking this. Then they heard a voice in their heads. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seekers, and ask. Naruto could tell this was freaking out Percy, so he put a hand on his shoulder and it seemed to work some. Looking back at it, he had to admit it was a bit creepy. That green mist was its form of speaking to them, and it did not feel evil like some things they had encountered so far, so he would give it a chance, and it seemed Percy would too. What is my destiny? They asked at the same time. The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of them and around the table with the pickled monster part jars. Suddenly there were 4 men sitting around the table, playing cards, and a bandaged man standing next to them. Their faces became clearer. It was Smelly Gabe and his buddies, as Percy told Naruto about them, along with his former lord and master, Danzo Shiomara. Danzo turned toward them and spoke in the rasping voice of the oracle and said, Two child of the moon shall meet face to face, said Danzo. You shall go west, and face the god who has turned, said Gabe. You shall find what was stolen, and see it safely returned, one of Gabe's friend. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, said Gabe's other friend. You shall fail to save what matters most, in the end, said Eddie, who is one Gabe's friends. And the two child of the moon shall be trained in the city of the whirlpool, and Danzo said again. The figures began to dissolve, and as the mist retreated, coiling into a huge green serpent and slithering back into the mouth of the mummy, Percy cried, Wait. What do you mean? What friend? What will I fail to save? The tail of the mist snake disappeared into the mummy's mouth. She reclined back against the wall. Her mouth closed tight, as if it hadn't been opened in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, nothing but a room full of mementos. Come on, Percy said shakily, let's get out of here, this place is creeping me out. Downstairs. Well? Chiron asked. She said we would retrieve what was stolen. Percy sighed. Grover sat forward, chewing excitedly on the remains of a Diet Coke can. That's great. What did the oracle say exactly? Chiron pressed. This is important. She said we would go west and face a god who had turned. We would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely returned. I knew it, Grover said. Chiron didn't look satisfied. Anything else? Naruto saw that Percy didn't want to speak about the betrayal part, so Naruto decided to talk about his part. To me, she said that two Child of the Moon shall meet face to face and they both will be trained in the city of the whirlpool, as Naruto told Chiron his part of the prophecy and Chiron told Naruto to go on. I think I had to meet this other Child of the Moon and train with him in this city of the whirlpool, said Naruto, and Chiron was satisfied with Naruto's answer. Well, if that's the case, I hope you have a good training trip and hopefully meet this other Child of the Moon, Chiron said to Naruto and turned back to Percy. Anything particular to add, Percy? No, Percy said, that's about it. I see, Chiron said as he studied Percy's face. Just know this. The oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. Okay, Percy said, anxious to change topics. So where do we go? Who's this god in the west? Think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wants to take over? The boy guessed. Yes, quite. Someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided eons ago, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the deaths of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath that all three of them have now broken. Hades, Percy said. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. A scrap of aluminum dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Whoa, wait, what? A fury came after Percy, Chiron reminded him. She watched the young men until she was sure of their identity, then tried to kill him. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested. Especially if he has found out Percy is a son of Poseidon. A hellhound got into the forest, Chiron continued. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill this young half-blood before he can take on the quest. Great, two major gods want to kill me. Percy mumbled. Naruto looked at Percy and said, Percy, things ahead will be complicated from now on and there will be monsters, gods or whatever the fuck is going to come for you. But I'll follow to your quest to protect you and finish your quest. I don't know if I'm doing this as a friend or not, but I will protect your ass and get you to finish this fucking quest. Hey, thanks Naruto. Percy replied with a smile. But a quest too. Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt, Chiron insisted. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. Percy must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. Grover started trembling. He'd started eating pinnacle cards like potato chips. The poor guy needed to complete a quest with Percy or Naruto so he could get his searcher's license, whatever that was. You're saying we're being used? Percy stated, irritable about this information. I'm saying it's no accident that your father have claimed you now. It's a very risky gamble, but they're in desperate situations. They need you. Well, Percy, now we have to save your dad's ass and prove he is innocent of not stealing the bolt. Naruto sighed, realizing you got himself in a shitload of work because of Percy and his uncle, and Grover nodded to that. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along, haven't you? Percy accused. I had my suspicions. As I said, I've spoken to the oracle, too. Chiron said calmly. So let me get this straight, Percy said. We're supposed to go to the underworld and confront the Lord of the Dead. Check, Chiron stated. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe. Check, Naruto said with a bored tone. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice, in 10 days. That's about right, Chiron said. Did I mention that Maine is very nice this time of year? Grover asked weakly as he gulped down an ace of hearts. You don't have to go, Percy told him. I can't ask that of you. He took a deep breath, then stood, brushing the shredded cards and aluminum bits off his t-shirt. You guys saved my life. If you're serious about wanting me along, I won't let you down. That made Percy smile because he wanted another friend with him, and Naruto nodded with respect. All the way, G-man. Percy said and then turned to Chiron. So where do we go? The oracle just said to go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Where? Naruto asked. Chiron looked surprised. I thought that would be obvious enough. The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles. Oh, Percy said. Naturally. So we just get on a plane. No. Grover shrieked. Percy, what are you thinking? Have you ever been on a plane in your life? Percy shook his head in the negative. Percy, think, Chiron said. You are the son of the sea god. Your father's bitterest rival is Zeus, lord of the sky. Your mother knew better than to trust you in an airplane. You would be in Zeus's domain. You would never come down again alive. Okay, Percy said, determined not to look at the storm. So, we'll travel overland. That's right, Chiron said. 2 companions may accompany you. Grover is one. The other has already volunteered, if you will accept her help. Gee, Percy said, feigning surprise while smirking to Naruto, who did the same. Who else would be stupid enough to volunteer for a quest like this? The blonde looked behind Chiron to see his fellow blonde behind the man. He just went behind Chiron and took something off, which is a Yankees hat, and Annabeth shimmered into existence for all to see. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. She then turned to Naruto and said, besides, we got the ninja assassin here to protect us if we need it. Naruto, there is one thing I am having trouble understanding. Can you see me even if I am invisible? I heard your footsteps when you came in here, and I also heard your breathing and humming from the spot you were breathing. If you want advice on shelf, don't speak or breath and stay quiet. Oh, Annabeth blushed for trying to be sneaky around a ninja, especially a censor-type ninja. If you do say so yourself, Percy said with a smirk. I suppose you have a plan, wise girl? Her cheeks colored. Do you want my help or not? The 4 of us will work just fine. Percy said in return, happy to be traveling with people he knows and trusts. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that were never supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. Already done it. Naruto commented as he reached into his back pocket and is now holding a scroll with all the necessary things he need for survival. I got everything I need right in here. You have got to teach me about Fujutsu. Annabeth said with wide eyes. Maybe, after this trip or after my training with the other child of the moon, but see if you have the energy to do it, Naruto said thoughtfully. Thank you, Naruto, I can't wait, said Annabeth with a bright smile on her face. I gonna talk to Talia and tell her about this my meeting with this child of the moon and protecting your ass in this quest. With that, Naruto shunshined to the tree. All 3 just looked at the spot Naruto just disappeared at with shock expression, but then Grover changed his expression to a cheerful expression and shouted. That was freaking awesome, and Percy and Annabeth just nodded at the badass teleporting move Naruto just performed. Wait. Talia cut in, stopping Naruto's explanation. You are telling me that you, Annabeth, Grover, and Percy are going to quest to get my father's lightning bolt before the winter solstice? Pretty much yes, and if it isn't returned to Zeus, then Percy going to be smite by Zeus and world war with Zeus and Poseidon beating the crap out of each other, replied Naruto. You know, I am not surprised. Talia deadpanned. Ah well, looks like we're going to hell. I always wanted to go there, Naruto shrugged. Why? That's where I'm going, or is Yomi, since I'm also Shinto. Talia wanted to say something about that but let it slide for now. And let's hope you and the others would make it out in one piece, said a concerned Talia. Yeah, let's hope. Well anyway, I better get going. I will see you later, Talia. Naruto said as he started fading away from Limbo. Talia had an unsure face at first, but just waked forward and planted a kiss on Naruto's fading cheek, shocking the boy greatly. Good luck, Naruto, she said as he disappeared. She then sighed. He probably won't get it. And it's even harder if you don't feel love. Camp Half-Blood Boulder. As they waited Naruto at the camp's boulder, they saw him body flickered here, surprising everyone except Krian since he got used to Minato and other nin teleporting around him. Okay guys, let's go, said Naruto, and all nodded and was about to go until Krian stopped Naruto. Naruto, I know this is Percy's quest, but you're the only one with much experience. Can you look after them please? Asked Krian, and Naruto nodded, which got him to smile. Thanks Naruto, I know I can count on you, Chiron said. This is Argus. He will drive you into the city, and, well, keep an eye on things. They heard footsteps behind them. They saw Luke came running up the hill, carrying basketball shoes. Hey, Luke said, glad I caught you. Annabeth blushed, the way she always did when Luke was around. Just wanted to say good luck, he said to Percy. And I thought, maybe you could use these. He handed Percy the sneakers, which looked pretty normal. Luke said, Maya? White bird's wings sprouted out of the heels, startling Percy so much he dropped them. The shoes flapped around on the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. Awesome, Grover said. Luke smiled. Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad. Of course, I don't use them much these days, he said with a sad expression. Percy didn't know what to say. Hey, man, he said. Thanks. Listen, Percy, Naruto. Luke looked uncomfortable. A lot of hopes are riding on both of you, so just kill some monsters for me, okay? Don't worry with Percy's luck, we might just run into a few, Naruto said calmly. Hey, Percy shouted. Naruto just ignored him and walked away. Don't waste more time, I see you by the van, he said and disappeared. Percy and Luke shook hands. Luke patted the Grover's head between his horns, and then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, who looked like she might pass out. After Luke was gone, Percy said to her, You're hyperventilating. I'm not. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you? Oh, why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy? Annabeth stomped down the other side of the hill, where a white SUV waited on the shoulder of the road. Naruto and Argus were already there. Percy picked up the flying shoes and he had a sudden bad feeling. He looked at Chiron. I won't be able to use these, will I? Chiron shook his head. Luke meant well, Percy. But taking to the air, that would not be wise for you. Percy nodded, disappointed, but then he got an idea. Hey, Grover, you want a magic item? Grover's eyes lit up. Me? Pretty laced the sneakers over his fake feet. Maya, he shouted. He got off the ground okay, but then fell over sideways so his backpack dragged through the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. Practice, Chiron called after him. You just need practice. Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawnmower heading toward the van. Before Percy could follow, Chiron caught his arm. I should have trained you better, Percy, he said. If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training. That's okay. I just wish, Percy said, but stopped himself, not wanting to sound selfish and not getting a magical item to help him on his quest. What am I thinking? Chiron cried. I can't let you get away without this. He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to Percy. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint, black ink, removable cap. Probably cost 30 cents. Gee, Percy said. Thanks. Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You're the one. Percy remembered the field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Chiron had thrown him a pen that turned into a sword. He took off the cap, and the pen grew longer and heavier in his hand. In half a second, he held a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. It was the first weapon that actually felt balanced in his hand. The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into, Chiron told me. Its name is Anaklusmos. Riptide, Percy translated, surprised the ancient Greek came so easily. Use it only for emergencies, Chiron said, and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case. Percy looked at the wickedly sharp blade. What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? How could it not? The sword is celestial bronze. Forged by the Cyclops, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Good to know. Now recap the pen. Percy touched the pen cap to the sword tip and instantly Riptide shrank to a ballpoint pen again. He tucked it in his pocket, a little nervous because he was famous for losing pens at school. You can't, Chiron said. Can't what? Percy asked. Lose the pen, Chiron said. It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it. Percy was wary, but he threw the pen as far as he could down the hill and watched it disappear in the grass. It may take a few moments, Chiron said. Now check your pocket. Percy noticed pen was there. Okay, that's extremely cool, Percy admitted. But what if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword? Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist? Yes. Read the Iliad. It's full of references to the stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really, the lengths to which humans will go to fit things into their version of reality. Percy placed Riptide back in his pocket. Chiron, Percy said, when you say the gods are immortal, I mean, there was a time before them, right? 4 ages before them, actually. The time of the Titans was the 4th age, sometimes called the Golden Age, which is definitely a misnomer. This, the time of Western civilization and the rule of Zeus, is the 5th age. So what was it like? Before the gods? Chiron pursed his lips. Even I am not old enough to remember that, child, but I know it was a time of darkness and savagery for mortals. Kronos, the lord of the Titans, called his reign the Golden Age because men lived innocent and free of all knowledge. But that was mere propaganda. The Titan King cared nothing for your kind except as appetizers or a source of cheap entertainment. It was only in the early reign of Lord Zeus, when Prometheus the good Titan brought fire to humanity, that your species began to progress, and even then Prometheus was branded a radical thinker. Zeus punished him severely, as you may recall. Of course, eventually the gods warmed to humans, and Western civilization was born. But the gods can't die now, right? I mean, as long as Western civilization is alive, they're alive. So, even if we failed, nothing could happen so bad it would mess up everything, right? Chiron gave him a melancholy smile. No one knows how long the age of the West will last, Percy. The gods are immortal, yes. But then, so were the Titans. They still exist, locked away in their various prisons, forced to endure endless pain and punishment, reduced in power, but still very much alive. May the fates forbid that the gods should ever suffer such a doom, or that we should ever return to the darkness and chaos of the past. All we can do, child, is follow our destiny. Good luck in your quest. Percy, and humanities is now in your hand, and good luck. With that, Creon left and Percy headed towards the van. Argus drove them out of the countryside and into western Long Island. Percy felt weird to be on a highway again. Annabeth and Grover sitting next to him, and Naruto was sitting on the front seat, as if they were normal carpoolers. After 2 weeks at Half-Blood Hill, the real world seemed like a fantasy. Naruto noticed Percy was staring at every McDonald's, every kid in the back of his parents' car, every billboard and shopping mall. So far so good, Percy said. 10 miles and not a single monster. Annabeth gave him an irritated look. It's bad luck to talk that way, seaweed brain. Remind me again. Why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. Annabeth folded her cap of invisibility. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. Why? She sighed. How many reasons do you want? One time my mom caught Poseidon with his girlfriend in Athena's temple, which is hugely disrespectful. Another time, Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron god for the city of Athens. Your dad created some stupid saltwater spring for his gift. My mom created the olive tree. The people saw that her gift was better, so they named the city after her. They must really like olives. Oh, forget it. Now, if she'd invented pizza, that I could understand. I said, forget it. As Percy and Annabeth continued to agree, Naruto told Grover to wake him up when they got to their destination, and he nodded, and with that Naruto fell asleep. Greyhound Station. Traffic slowed them down in Queens. By the time they got into Manhattan it was sunset and starting to rain. Argus dropped them at the Greyhound Station on the Upper East Side, not far from Percy's mom and Gabe's apartment. Percy saw typed to a mailbox was a soggy flyer with his picture on it. Have you seen this, boy? He ripped it down before Annabeth and Grover could notice, but Naruto already saw it. Argus unloaded their bags, made sure they got bus tickets, and then drove away, the eye on the back of his hand opening to watch them as he pulled out of the parking lot. Naruto noticed that Percy was looking off into the distance, probably thinking about his home. Grover shouldered Percy's backpack. "You want to know why she married him, Percy?" he said. Percy stared at him. "Were you reading my mind or something? Just your emotions." Grover shrugged. "Guess I forgot to tell you satyrs can do that. You were thinking about your mom and your stepdad, right?" Percy nodded, wondering what else Grover might have forgotten to tell him. "Your mom married Gabe for you, Grover told me. You call him smelly, but you've got no idea. The guy has this aura. Yuck. I can smell him from here. I can smell traces of him on you, and you haven't been near him for a week." "Thanks," Percy said. "Where's the nearest shower?" "You should be grateful, Percy. Your stepfather smells so repulsively human he could mask the presence of any demigod. As soon as I took a whiff inside his Camaro, I knew. Gabe has been covering your scent for years. If you hadn't lived with him every summer, you probably would have been found by monsters a long time ago. Your mom stayed with him to protect you. She was a smart lady. She must have loved you a lot to put up with that guy, if that makes you feel any better." It didn't, but Percy forced himself not to show it. "I'll see her again," he thought. "She isn't gone." Percy stared a little more into the distance until they had to move on. "Hey, the bus is here, come on let's go," said Naruto and nodded. As they got on the bus that is heading to New Jersey and got on and find a spot to sit in. The bus was filled and their trip to New Jersey has started, and since it might take a while to get there, he decided to rest up a bit. "Hey guys, I going to take a nap, so when we get there, wake me up will?" asked Naruto, and all nodded. "Thanks." And with that Naruto went darkness take over him and falls asleep. Flashback. A man with spiky, light brown hair, prominent jawlines and green eyes. He is wearing the standard Iwagakure flak jacket and single-sleeved shirt underneath, leaving the entirety of his right arm exposed except for the presence of his forehead protector, wrapped around the upper portion of the arm. This is Gari of the explosion release. He processed the explosion Kekkei Genkai where it utilize explosive chakra in combat, allowing them to cause explosions in objects they come into contact with. He is currently in Valley and trying to get away from the enemy that is chasing him. He was given a simple mission to take down some Konoha nin with 4 other Iwa nin, but was ambushed by Konoha's Anbu, about 5 or 6 of them, and has managed to take down all 4 of his comrade. He managed to take 2 of them but knew he doesn't have a chance and decided to escape. As he looked back and saw no one behind him and sighed and thought that he lost them, but was only later look in front only to see a knee to his face as the knee strike him in the face and knocked him down to the floor laying face down. As he looked up, he saw a Anbu of a fox-like mask and realized this was the Kitsune of Konoha, the shinobi who managed to kill 3 of Kiri's greatest 7 swordsmen of the current generation, and the fox Anbu looked down at him and simply said, "Any last words? You may kill me, tree hugger, but Iwa and Onoki will have your head for this. I may die today, but I will not be given pity from my enemy, including you Konoha scum. Very well then, may you find peace." As Naruto picked Gari up and held him in a guillotine choke while standing, he then applied pressure to his neck and proceeded to twist his neck, snapping his neck with a sicking snap sound, and dropped his body on the floor. Naruto then walked away, heading back to his team and head back to Konoha to report to Lord Danzo. Flashback end. Naruto suddenly heard a commotion going on that disrupted his sleep and peeked an eye open to see what was going on. What he saw was the bus pretty much empty except Annabeth and Grover were there with what to be 3 women that have leathery wings like bats, claws, a mouth full of yellow fangs and glowing eyes speaking to the 2, but there was no sign of Percy, probably wearing Annabeth's cap. "Are these the 3 Furies Mom told me about?" thought Naruto as he still continued to look without anyone noticing he's awake. So these are the goddesses of vengeance. Electo the angry, Megara, the grudging, and Tasiphon the avenger. Seems they are trying to stop us with this quest. Might as well play possum for a while, and with that Naruto pretended to go back to sleep. As Electo continued to interrogate Annabeth and Grover on the whereabouts of Percy, and then she noticed Naruto sleeping in the corner. "Megara, keep an eye on these brats. Tasiphon, take care of the son of Artemis before he wakes up, and I look for C-spawn," commended Electo, and all nodded as Electo began to go outside the bus to look for Percy, and Tasiphon headed towards Naruto, hoping to strike him down while vulnerable. As she arrived, she looked down at the sleeping form of Naruto. So pathetic for a shinobi, letting himself be defenseless and vulnerable, smirked Tisfan with arrogance as she grabbed Naruto and suddenly he poofed out of existence, surprising her, but then felt our presence behind her. Who said I left myself vulnerable, but you just easily made this easy for me. Goodbye, whispered Naruto to her as he formed a Rasengan in his hand and shoved it through her, leaving in pain until she dissolved to gold dust. To Siphon, screamed Megara, you will pay for that, boy. As she flew towards Naruto in rage and failed to notice Naruto already finished performing a hand sign. Sweeten, water release, water dragon bullet. As Naruto blew water out of his mouth, forming a Chinese dragon figure out of water as it went towards Megara, opened its mouth and bite Megara and rams her outside the bus, leaving her soak in water, laying down. As Naruto headed towards, she quickly got back up and went straight to Naruto, but he just moved out of the way. As Megara turned back to him, he just simply enzwigiri kicked her to the side of the head, knocking her down face down and slowly tired to get up. As Naruto gathered chakra to his left foot to straighten it and running towards her and blackout stomp her to the head, splatting her head everywhere with golden blood everywhere as well, and soon later dissolved into gold dust. As Annabeth and Grover looked on in shock and fear. Not only did Naruto bet 2 of the Furies, but he made it look easy. But what scared them was how he killed them. He did it so ruthlessly and shown no mercy. So this is what Krian meant by Root Anbu being ruthless and emotionless, thought Annabeth with fear. But Naruto didn't notice their expression but was looking around for Electo until he saw her and Percy fighting, and Annabeth and Grover noticed as well and headed towards Percy. Perseus Jackson, Electo said, in an accent that was definitely from somewhere further south than Georgia. You have offended the gods. You shall die. I like you better as a math teacher, Percy said to her. She growled. Annabeth and Grover moved up behind the Furies cautiously, looking for an opening. Percy took the ballpoint pen out of his pocket and uncapped it. Riptide elongated into a shimmering double-edged sword. She growled. Submit now, she hissed. And you will not suffer eternal torment. Nice try, Percy said to her. Percy, look out. Annabeth cried. Mrs. Dodds lashed her whip around Percy's sword hand while the Furies on the either side lunged at him. Percy felt like his hand wrapped in molten lead, but he managed not to drop Riptide. He stuck the Fury on the left with its hilt, sending her toppling backward into a seat. As he managed to slash her on her shoulder, she was about to rush towards Percy again, but Annabeth got Mrs. Dodds in a wrestler's hold and yanked her backward while Grover ripped the whip out of her hands. Ow! He yelled. Ow! Hot! Hot! The Fury Percy had hilt slammed came at him again, talons ready, but he swung Riptide and she broke open like a piñata. Mrs. Dodds was trying to get Annabeth off her back. She kicked, clawed, hissed and bit, but Annabeth held on while Grover got Mrs. Dodds's legs tied up in her own whip. Finally they both shoved her backward into the aisle. Mrs. Dodds tried to get up, but she didn't have room to flap her bat wings, so she kept falling down. Zeus will destroy you, she promised. Hades will have your soul. Brachas meas vesamini. Percy yelled, which oddly meant, eat my pants. Electo somehow managed to get free herself, but before she could attack him, she suddenly heard, sweeten, water release, severing wave, as Electo was pierced Electo in the chest and looked to see Naruto pouring out the water of his mouth, and he moved his vertically, resulting to her to be split in half and later turned to gold dust. Suddenly, thunder shook the bus. Get away from the bus! Annabeth yelled. Now, they rushed outside and found the other passengers wandering around in a daze, arguing with the driver or running around in circles yelling, we're going to die. A Hawaiian-shirted tourist with a camera snapped Percy's photograph before he could recap his sword. Our bags. Grover realized. We left our. Boom. The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater in the roof. Let's go, Naruto said. We don't need more problems. Then he disappeared with Annabeth, Percy and Grover from there. Omake. Icha discover. As the strolls were wandering around the mass hall thinking of a prank to do, but they then notice on the spot where Naruto usually sit was a bright orange book titled, Icha Paradise, by Jiraiya the Toad Sage on it. Must be Naruto's. Think we should return this to him? Asked Connor. Yeah, we should, but I think he wouldn't mind us if we read what this novel is about, replied Travis, and Connor nodded. As they both opened the book and began to read each page, Their face grew a dark blush after reading the first few chapters. "Damn," muttered Connor. "You got that right, let's show this with the other guys." And with that they left the mass hall and to spread the wonder of Icha Icha to their fellow men. And soon they found Charles, Luke, Lee and Michael talking to one another and headed to them. "Hey guys, guess what Naruto had with him all this time," said Connor. "What?" asked all four guys. "This," Travis revealing the Icha Icha book, which confused them, but then said, "Come on, come here and read with us and you will find out." As the four got around Connor and Travis and started reading the book. As they read each chapter, they slowly began to grow a dark blush and even darker later until they turned to the next page and slowly read it until they all had nosebleed launched out of their nose and hit they ground behind them. Knockout with perverted grin on their faces. 20 minutes. As Krian and Mr. D were walking around camp, they noticed 6 boys were passed out with perverted grins on their faces with blood dripping out of their nose. "My God, what the hell happened?" said a shocked Krian. "I think I know," said Mr. D as he walked towards Travis and took the orange book out of his hand. It seems Artemis' son is a fan of this Joraria's series. Can't wait for her to find out about this. As they both laughed and walked away with the book in hand, leaving behind the 6 perverted boys. "Damn it, don't you all go die on me," Naruto thought in his mind as he was rushing towards Percy and the others' location. "Damn it, I should have left a fucking clone with them." As Naruto reached to his destination, he saw Percy was hiding behind a statue and a snake-like woman who's tall, old with wrinkled, coffee-colored skin and snakes for hair with long, elegant, wrinkled hands. She wore a long black gown, and her face is a shimmering pale circle under her black veil. So that's Medusa, better not look at her directly in the eyes. Better use sensor sense, thought Naruto as he closed his eyes and began to sense his surroundings. I know I should go down there and kill her right away, but if I do that, I'll be babying Percy then. I already saved his ass twice, better let him deal with this. Better made sure Annabeth and Grover are alright, thought Naruto as he sensed for their presence and found them to be okay. Good, better find a good spot to enjoy the show. As Naruto went to find a good spot to see how Percy do and decided to go on the roof and look from upside down. Percy and Medusa. Such a pity to destroy a handsome young face, Auntie M said to Percy soothingly. Stay with me, Percy. All you have to do is look up. Percy fought the urge to obey. Instead he looked to one side and saw one of those glass spheres people put the gardens, a gazing ball. He could see Auntie M's dark reflection in the orange glass. Her headdress was gone, revealing her face as a shimmering pale circle. Her hair was moving, writhing like serpents. Auntie M, how could I have been so stupid? He thought. The gray-eyed one did this to me, Percy, Medusa said, and she didn't sound anything like a monster. Annabeth's mother, the cursed Athena, turned me from a beautiful woman into this. Don't listen to her. Annabeth's voice shouted, somewhere in the statuary. Run, Percy. Silence. Medusa snarled. Then her voice modulated back to a comforting purr. You see why I must destroy the girl, Percy. She is my enemy's daughter. I shall crush her statue to dust. But you, dear Percy, you need not suffer. No, Percy muttered. He tried to make his legs move. Do you really want to help the gods? Medusa asked. Do you understand what awaits you on this foolish quest, Percy? What will happen if you reach the underworld? Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue. Less pain, less pain. Suddenly an invisible force slammed on Medusa and sent her away from Percy. She yelled, her snake hair hissing and spitting. Percy scrambled away and hid in the statuary. Right next to him, Annabeth's voice said, Percy. Percy jumped so high his feet nearly cleared a garden gnome. Geez, don't do that. Annabeth took off her Yankees cap and became visible. You have to cut her head off. What, are you crazy? Let Naruto handle her. Percy, you have to do this your own, Naruto said, appeared to be standing upside down from the roof. Percy asked as he looked up to him from the roof, why? Percy, I won't always be there to protect you. You have to learn to defend yourself, so toughen up and kill that bitch of a monster, Percy. You bet Electo, remember, Naruto said. But you killed her. Yes, after you defeated her before I killed her, you can do it, you don't need me, Percy. Percy was unsure about that, but Annabeth said, Medusa is a menace. She's evil. I'd kill her myself, but... She swallowed, as if she were about to make a difficult admission. But you've got the better weapon. Besides, I'd never get close to her. She'd slice me to bits because of my mother. You got a chance. What? I can't, Percy said. Look, do you want her turning more innocent people into statues? She pointed to a pair of statue lovers, a man and a woman with their arms around each other, turned to stone by the monster. Annabeth grabbed a green gazing ball from a nearby pedestal. A polished shield would be better. She studied the sphere critically. The convexity will cause some distortion. The reflection size should be off by a factor of. Would you speak English? I am, Annabeth said, and she tossed him the glass ball. Just look at her in the glass. Never look at her directly. Hey, guys, Grover yelled somewhere above them. I think she's unconscious. Ruer. Maybe not, Grover corrected. Hurry up, Annabeth said. She whipped her Yankees cap onto her head and vanished. Good luck, Percy, Grover said. He went into hiding. Good luck, Naruto said. Use the lessons Chiron taught you back in school. Use your brain on this one. As he said from the roof and hang upside down. Easy for you, Percy thought. He took out his pen and uncapped it. The bronze blade of Riptide elongated in his hand. He followed the hissing and spitting sounds of Medusa's hair. He kept his eyes locked on the gazing ball so he would only glimpse a Medusa's reflection, not the real thing. Then, in the green-tinted glass, he saw her. He yelled, hey. Percy advanced on her, which wasn't easy, holding a sword and a glass ball. She let him approach, 20 feet, 10 feet. He saw the reflection of her face. Surely it wasn't really that ugly. The green swirls of the gazing ball must be distorting it, making it look worse, he thought. You wouldn't harm an old woman, Percy, Medusa said. I know you wouldn't. Percy hesitated, fascinated by the face he saw reflected in the glass, the eyes that seemed to burn straight through the green tint, making his arms go weak. Percy, don't listen to her. Grover shouted from his hiding. Medusa cackled. Too late. She lunged at Percy with her talons. Percy slashed up with his sword, and then heard a sickening shock. Then a hiss like wind rushing out of a cavern, the sound of a monster disintegrating. Something fell to the ground next to his foot. It took all his willpower not to look. He could feel the warm ooze soaking into his sock, little dying snakeheads tugging at his shoelaces. Oh, yuck, Grover said. His eyes were still tightly closed. Mega yuck. Annabeth came up next to him, her eyes fixed on the sky. She was holding Medusa's black veil. She said, don't move. Very, very carefully, without looking down, she knelt and draped the monster's head in black cloth, then picked it up. It was still dripping green juice. Good job, Percy, Naruto said as he fell down from the roof and landed behind them, freaking them out. Don't do that, Naruto, Annabeth shouted. Naruto ignored her and asked Percy, are you okay? Yeah, Percy decided, though he felt like throwing up his double cheeseburger. Why didn't the head evaporate? He asked. Once you sever it, it becomes a spoil of war, Annabeth said. Same as your Minotaur's horn. But don't unwrap the head. It can still petrify you. Percy recapped his sword. Together, they stumbled back to the warehouse. They found some old plastic grocery bags behind the snack counter and double-wrapped Medusa's head. They plopped it on the table where they had eaten dinner and sat around it. Percy said, so we have Athena to thank for this monster? Annabeth flashed him an irritated look. Your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple, they became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice me up, but she wanted to preserve you as a nice statue. She's still sweet on your dad. You probably reminded her of him. Percy's face was burning. Oh, so now it's my fault we met Medusa. Annabeth straightened. In a bad imitation of Percy's voice, she said, it's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm? Forget it, Percy said. You're impossible. You're insufferable. Hey, Grover interrupted. You two are giving me a migraine, and satyrs don't even get migraines. What are you going to do with the head, Percy? Naruto asked. Percy stared at the thing. One little snake was hanging out of a hole in the plastic. The words printed on the side of the bag said, we appreciate your business. He was angry, not just with Annabeth or her mom, but with all the gods for this whole quest, for getting them blown off the road and in two major fights the very first day out from camp. At this rate, they had never made it to LA alive, much less before the summer solstice. What had Medusa said? Percy thought. Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue. He got up. I'll be back. Percy, Annabeth called after me. What are you? Percy searched the back of the warehouse until he found Medusa's office. Her account book showed her 6 most recent sales, all shipments to the underworld to decorate Hades and Persephone's garden. According to one freight bill, the underworld's billing address was DOA Recording Studios, West Hollywood, California. He folded up the bill. So this is the underworld's address, Naruto said, who appeared behind him. Why yes, Percy said and stuffed address in his pocket. In the cash register they found $20, a few golden drachmas, and some packing slips for the Hermes Overnight Express, each with a little leather bag attached for coins. Percy rummaged around the rest of the office until he found the right size box. They went back to the picnic table, packed up Medusa's head, and filled out a delivery slip. The gods. Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York, with best wishes, Percy Jackson. Percy, they are not going to like that. They will take it as an insult, Grover said, hoping to change Percy's mind about him little gift. Good, then maybe next time they won't lose that stupid bolt, he grumbled as he poured some golden drachmas in the pouch. As soon as he closed it, there was a sound like a cash register. The package floated off the table and disappeared with a pop. Percy, even though that was brave of you but also stupid at the same time. Now Zeus might make this harder for us now, he could be sending something worse than the Furies and Medusa. Are you ready to face what is going to be installed for us? Asked Naruto. I'm ready, I don't care what they sent at us, I'll do anything to get my mum back, even if I have to go through anyone to do it, said a determined Percy. That mouth of yours is really going to get us killed one day, replied Naruto, and Annabeth just nodded at that. She didn't try criticize Percy but was more resigned to the fact that he had a major talent for ticking off the gods and agreeing with Naruto that Percy would get them killed one day. Come on, she muttered. We need a new plan. Omake. Naruto and Zoe Day at the carnival. As the hunters and Naruto just finish hunting down a couple of Drakon and successfully got all of them. Naruto managed to take 3 down with no sweat but really didn't enjoy and showed any emotion to it, so Zoe with Artemis' permission decided to take Naruto with her to a carnival that was close to the camp to show Naruto what fun is. They're at the carnival walking around until they heard, step right up, if you can shoot all the targets with this gun, you will win a fabulous prize, said the guy at the gun stand game. Naruto, thou should give a try, asked Zoe. Oh right. Let's do this, replied Naruto. As they both headed towards the stand and paid to play the game. The rules are simple, kid. You have to shoot all 10 targets with 10 bullets in this rifle. You ready? Asked the guy, and Naruto nodded. Okay, go. And Naruto shot 10 times in 10 seconds from the rifle, and when he put the rifle back on the stand and looked at everyone's face that was around them. Not only did he hit all 10 targets, but managed to get them all in a bull's eye. Damn, this kid is good, thought the guy who runs this stand. Thou are not surprised, you're looking at Milady's flesh and blood after all, thought Zoe. Wow, kid, that was good. Here you go, the grand prize, said the guy and handed Naruto his prize, which was a giant sliver teddy bear. Coincidence, isn't it? And Naruto didn't really want the teddy bear, so he gave it to Zoe, who was surprised about it but accepted no less. The rest of the day they went to play different games, go on rides and eat carnival food together. To them, it was really enjoyable and fun. And as they were about to head back to the hunter's camp, Naruto stopped her, and as she looked at him with a confused face while holding her teddy bear. Zoe, even though I don't know how to express emotion, but I really had a fun day, thank you Zoe, said Naruto, in which it got Zoe to lightly blush. No, thank you Naruto, thou hast given me a day to enjoy, even if thou are surrounded by men in this carnival, replied Zoe as she went towards him and kissed him on the cheek, which surprised him, and Zoe moved back and blushed a bit darker now and decided to head back to camp first. Naruto just stood there and placed his hand on the cheek Zoe kissed and stood there quietly for a few minutes before he decided to catch up to Zoe. Unknown to the two of them, they were being followed by Kushina and Artemis. She didn't really trust her baby outside of camp without her, even with Zoe there, and was paranoid on something might happen to him, so she and Kushina decided to follow them on their day at the carnival. And was happy that her son was having a good time with Zoe. You know Kushina, those two really are a good together, said Artemis with a smile. Yeah, they do. They reminded me and Minato when we were young, replied Kushina. And Artemis' smile turned to a growl. You had to remind me that you dated my husband in the past. Oh come on, you can't let it go, can you? I did, but thanks to you reminded me about it. As the two agreed about Kushina used to date Minato for a couple of minutes and decided to teleport back to camp.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.